Chapter 256, Heavenly Tribulation 8. What on earth does that mean? Me, at the heavenly being stage? At the grand perfection of the heavenly being stage, no less? I don't quite understand. First, think about the essence of cultivation you undertake at the heavenly being stage. The essence of the heavenly being stage is to gradually grow the seed of madness you created upon reaching the heavenly being stage, turning your nascent soul itself into a seed of madness. You know this much, right? Yes, that's right. The heavenly being stage is the realm where mental cultivation is considered most important among all the realms I have traversed so far. And when you reach the grand perfection of the heavenly being stage, the ultimate point of the madness you've pursued fills the inside of your nascent soul. There are cases, however, where this has happened even before reaching the heavenly being stage, where one's nascent soul is already filled with madness in the nascent soul stage due to being too deeply insane. The heavenly being stage, if thought of symbolically, can be easily understood by thinking of the taiji of the four symbols, i.e. the yin-yang symbol. Tai-yin, Tai-yang, lesser yin, and lesser yang compose the taiji of the four symbols, right? That's correct. Her explanation continues. In other words, the process of rising to the heavenly being stage can be easily understood as having the center of Tai-yang with lesser yin within it. Or, conversely, the center of Tai-yin with lesser yang within. Womb. She floats the taiji of the four symbols in the air with both hands. Inside the diagram of the taiji, there is a smaller taiji with energy of colors opposite to each of the taiji's colors. If the larger part is considered the nature of heaven and earth, the smaller part is the seed of madness that is gathered when ascending to the heavenly being stage. You have to connect the microcosm inside your body with the nature of heaven and earth and accept the heaven and earth spiritual energy into the microcosm to ascend to the heavenly being stage. You have to fill yourself, the vessel, with the water called heaven and earth spiritual energy. But at the center of the vessel is the seed of madness. This is the cause of the situation you are currently in. Womb. She is at the center of the taiji, where the Tai-yang and Tai-yin are located. She begins to expand the areas of lesser yin and lesser yang. The small circle that is at the center of the taiji grows and grows until it becomes larger than the taiji itself. The vessel that is you is already so full of madness that there's no room for the spiritual power of heaven and earth to enter. Only in such cases, when madness is already too full, is it said that you cannot simply ascend to the heavenly being stage from the grand perfection nascent soul stage. Then, the meaning of the grand perfection heavenly being stage is, after properly aligning the ratio of heaven and earth spiritual energy to madness to achieve heaven and man unity. Womb. Yunwei again manipulates the heaven and earth spiritual energy inside her hands to create the taiji of the four symbols. The taiji of the four symbols rotates, gradually increasing in size. The spinning enlarged taiji soon has a lesser yin and lesser yang larger than the original taiji itself. The size of the madness you grow by matching the ratio of the heaven and earth spiritual energy to madness, and the current size of the madness you possess are similar, or perhaps even larger. Having a mind that is already equivalent or superior to the grand perfection heavenly being stage while at the grand perfection nascent soul stage, it seems you've really lived a tumultuous life. TSK tisk. She clicks her tongue, looking at me as if I'm pitiable. Then, what should I do? Ignoring her gaze, I ask how I can reach the heavenly being stage. It's simple, is it not? The problem arises because you're trying to elevate your realm to the early heavenly being stage while being at the grand perfection heavenly being level. Just gather significantly more heaven and earth spiritual energy than you think. Huh. I let out a hollow laugh. So, you mean to say that I have to gather heaven and earth spiritual energy in a ratio that matches the amount of madness I already possess in order to ascend to the heavenly being stage? That's right. It's such a unique case that I've only heard of it in legends. Yours is the first time I'm seeing it firsthand. At her words, I can't help but inwardly click my tongue. People say it's hard to be objective about oneself, but I have a rough idea of how mad I am. I need to gather enough heaven and earth spiritual energy to match my madness in order to break through. Until now, I thought madness wouldn't be an issue when rising to the heavenly being stage since I know very well how mad I am. But now, that madness is instead holding me back. If I have to gather heaven and earth spiritual energy to match my madness, just how much will that entail? Days pass. Eventually, I calculated that to gather the insane amount of heaven and earth spiritual energy that is required, I will have to kill at least 2 or 3 cultivators at the grand perfection 4-axis stage and extract their cultivation to even come close to managing the insane amount. How could my madness be measured so accurately? It's simple. My madness is my life. And the traces of my life are endlessly recorded through the canvas of myriad forms and connections. In other words, The number of characters that appear in the canvas of myriad forms and connections is the size of my madness. It's impossible. A being at the four-axis stage is already akin to a small nature of heaven and earth. I'm in a situation where reaching the heavenly being stage is impossible without swallowing that nature of heaven and earth whole. However, even if I use formations to draw in the heaven and earth spiritual energy, it will easily take at least 600 years. Therefore, since I can't break through to the heavenly being stage right now, the plan has to change. I'll find a cultivator at the heavenly being stage and descend to the head realm. Then, where can I find a friendly cultivator at the heavenly being stage to help me? The answer is really simple. In the end, it seems you, Senior, will have to use your power. How? I look at Yunwei and throw a piece of flesh from my pocket into the air. Plop. The piece of flesh bursts in midair, transforming into Yuanyu. Yunwei frowns at the sight of Yuanyu. Did you make a puppet learn the Taiji quaking lighting body? That's right. So you're telling me to go in there and take you down to the head realm? I nod. But Yunwei shakes her head. It's impossible in a short period. Why else would I, instead of being in someone else's body, cling to the body of my descendant Yunjin? I've never switched bodies, so I wouldn't know. It's because the wavelengths don't match. Why do you think devilish cultivators who switch bodies use puppets made of their own bloodline or their descendants? It's because their descendants have a soul wavelength similar to their own, making it easier for their soul to enter. Her explanation continues. That puppet was originally made based on someone else's bloodline, so the wavelength doesn't match, and it's even less compatible with me since it practiced devilish arts beforehand. It might be possible to enter it temporarily and exert some power, but to properly wield heavenly being level abilities inside, the wavelength has to match even closer with mine. As I listened to her explanation, I realized something. You said it's impossible in a short period. Does that mean there's a way to match the wavelengths in the long term? Yeah, well, if I go inside and continuously synchronize my soul and wavelength with it, it might eventually be possible. I ask, my eyes sparkling. Is there a way to shorten that process of synchronization? There is, but it requires an enormous amount of life force. To force the wavelengths to match instantly with my four-axis level consciousness, the body I inhabit might instantly lose its vitality and die. If that's the case. By the way, don't even say that the puppet is strong in life force because it learned devilish arts. Even the puppet's life force is insufficient, and one of the reasons the wavelengths don't match is precisely because of those devilish arts. Further increasing the devilish arts to replenish the puppet's vitality would only cause more repulsion in our wavelengths. No, that's not what I mean. There's a way to amplify this blood body's vitality purely, without resorting to devilish arts. Oh, are you planning to share your own life force? There's a better way. I explain the method I know, and after listening to my explanation, she seems to consider it for a moment before nodding. Not bad. But even if we don't match the wavelengths through orthodox methods according to your way, it will still take a considerable amount of time. Moreover, it's a conspicuous method, so it's highly likely to be discovered by the human race, and it will attract all sorts of riffraff trying to capture you. How long do you estimate it will take? At least 10 years. We will need 10 years. Are you confident you can last that long? If I reveal my full abilities, it's entirely possible. What kind of confidence is that? Doubtful of my confidence, I show her the ace I have been hiding. SSSSHH. As I clearly reveal the energy of the formless sword, Yunwei looks at me with a disgusted expression. Heart Tribe. Damn it. So that's how it is. I wondered how a mere grand perfection nascent soul stage youth could possess such madness. It's because you're from the Heart Tribe. No, more importantly, if it's discovered that you're from the Heart Tribe, it's certain that four-axis stage cultivators will come after you in droves. It's okay. I'm confident I won't be caught. Swoosh. I cut through the air, disappearing in front of Yunwei. Even she, with the consciousness of a four-axis cultivator, seems to have trouble finding me. Well, fine. Heart Tribe or whatever, since it's hard to sense your existence at all, let's assume you won't be discovered as a member of the Heart Tribe. But still, you're saying you can last for as long as 10 years? When cultivators at the four-axis stage might come after you. I smirk. It's entirely possible. How? Without saying a word, I show her General Seo. After seeing the power of General Seo, Yunwei is silent for a moment before nodding. All right, let's give it a try. She stands up with a determined expression. To prevent a repeat of what happened 40,000 years ago, I'll return the heavenly lightning banner. No matter what. Thus begins the plan between Yunwei and me. Kugagugum. I use earth-burrowing spells to dig through the ground, descending underground. Finally, I arrive at a crystal cave where a transparent lake is located. Above the pristine crystal cave. There, Yunwei and I arrive and float in the air, looking down below. Is this the void spirit pond of the devil realm? Yes, you can start from this vicinity. Alright. Anyway, I feel sorry for Gina. After she felt the seriousness of the current state of the heavenly lightning banner and decided to properly help me, she chose to inhabit Yunjin's body for a while. Ideally, I wanted to implant the 5 elements blood curse banner or the mysterious bizarre goo into Yun Wei, who had tried to stab me in the back. But, since she swore on her nascent soul to help me until we properly resolved the heavenly lightning banner, I decided to trust her one last time, considering my past life's friendship with Yunjin. Then, let's get started. I take out the vast cold jade I had stolen from the human race-occupied territory. Then, I begin to insert the vast cold jade into the location where the devil vein is situated. Kugagugagu. The vast cold jade erodes the land of the devil realm, contaminating the land filled with devilish energy, with spiritual energy. In an instant, the devilish energy of the area is transformed into spiritual energy. Yunwei sits near the void spirit pond, near where the dragon vein converges, and begins to learn the Silica Earth Great Wall practice I had taught her. Then, I place Yuan Yu right in front of Yunwei and have Yuan Yu also learn the Silica Earth Great Wall practice. Gradually, as she masters the intricacies of the Silica Earth Great Wall practice and seizes control of the nearby dragon vein, she starts to alter it using the formations she knows of. She begins to deploy multiple layers of formations, including the one used to conceal the base of polluted Een Valley, to hide her presence. The area that was once under the occupation of the human race in a previous life begins to be obscured by Yunwei's formations. Now, explain again the structure of the formation you mentioned. Yes, I will inform you about the longevity formation. Longevity formation. Together with Chongmun Ryong, this formation was created to cultivate and grow the longevity tree, drawing nearby dragon veins to accumulate and convert into vitality. I modified part of the formation, adapting the part that applies to trees to apply to both Yunwei and Yuan Yu. It's done. In this way, if we accumulate heaven and earth spiritual energy for just 10 years, Yunwei will be able to forcibly synchronize the wavelengths when she takes over Yuan Yu's body, providing enough vitality for Yuan Yu's body to withstand it. Thus, the plan is for Yunwei to enter Yuan Yu's body and exhibit the powers of the heavenly being stage to take me to the head realm, where we will seal the heavenly lightning banner. Given the current pace of the human race invasion force, it should take 3 years for them to bring their troops to this void spirit pond. But 3 years is too short. Regrettably for the human race, it is only right that it should take them longer to break through to this place. I will hold back the human race as much as possible. I will mobilize everything I can do to ensure they come much slower. Click, click, click. I spend my time making wooden figurines, modifying them into puppets on the spot. At least 3 years. During that period, I will create a legion of nascent soul stage puppets. Creating 2 mini mass-produced General COs with the Mad Lord circuits will cause a mental erosion similar to the effect of the wonderfully mysterious Fortresses circuit. Therefore, even though I initially didn't create more than a certain number of mass-produced General COs, now is not the time to worry about such limitations. For at least a period of 3 years, I must prepare for war. Along with the war, I contemplate ways to extend that 3-year period. With that firm resolution, I continue my preparations. And so, 5.5 years pass. Creak. Inside a hidden dark room, the door to the secret room opens, and a woman dressed in golden robes enters the secret room. John Myung-hoon, I've finally found you. Jin So-hei, with a face showing delight, speaks towards the darkness. It was difficult because of the recent incident involving the Mad Lord's wonderfully mysterious fortress waging war with the Earth Tribe's True Dragon Alliance. But in the end, we succeeded in catching the tail of Seo Eunhyun. The next moment, step, a man in golden robes walks out from the darkness. Is that true, So-hei? Yes. Contrary to the intelligence department's prediction that he was involved with the Mad Lord's rampage to hunt down all the dragon races, he is actually in the true devil realm. There is much more solid evidence compared to the ambiguous traces of Seo Eunhyun found on the Mad Lord's side. The true devil realm. The man in golden robes, John Myung-hoon, receives the letters handed by Jin So-hei and schemes through them. I see. He clashed with the advancing human race army. Yes. It's time, So-hei. John Myung-hoon's eyes sparkle. It's time to catch that traitor. Crackle. John Myung-hoon clenches his fist tightly. Red lightning bursts forth from him. Jin So-hei looks at John Myung-hoon with awe. In the past 5 years, John Myung-hoon had successfully risen to the grand perfection of the nascent soul stage. Translator notes, if you're confused about the explanation regarding the heavenly being stage, 'cause hell I know I was, looking at a Tai Chi diagram might help. Chapter 257, Heavenly Tribulation 9. Translator, Translating Novice. Editor, Z0rel. Entrance to the Devil Realm. A dull red glow flies towards that place. Within the glow, John Myung-hoon, clad in golden robes, appears. Shortly after, Following John Myung-hoon, cultivators in golden robes at the nascent soul stage or the heavenly being stage successively appear. The Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder Sect's Seo Eun-hyun Pursuit Team, comprising of 22 Heavenly Being Stage Grand Elders, 40 Nascent Soul Stage Elders, and including John Myung-hoon, a total of 63 individuals, reach the entrance to the dimensional gate of the true Devil Realm. A moment later, 672 cultivators wearing dark blue long robes land one after another behind them. 2 4-axis stage cultivators, 203 Heavenly Being Stage cultivators, for 67 Nascent Soul Stage cultivators. All are members equivalent to envoys of Penglai Palace, and all 17 children of Penglai Palace Lord, Han 1, are in attendance. Following them, another group of cultivators appear. They are each dressed in different colored robes. 13 Nascent Soul Stage cultivators, 23 Heavenly Being Stage cultivators, and 1 4-axis stage cultivator. A total of 37 cultivators. John Myung-hoon, looking at the gathered cultivators, speaks. It seems everyone is gathered. The Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder Sect, Penglai Palace, and John Myung-hoon's gaze moves to the group of 37 cultivators. Mercenaries as well. This is the entirety of the Seo Eun-hyun punitive force. John Myung-hoon steps forward and continues. First of all, I would like to express my deep gratitude to everyone for taking the time to catch the traitor of our sect. He goes on. Of course, I understand some of you are here for the huge bounty offered by Penglai Palace, not out of pure goodwill. Nonetheless, the fact that you are here to capture the villain of our sect remains unchanged. I especially want to express my gratitude to the Penglai Palace Lord for not sparing any support in capturing this villain. John Myung-hoon bows his head to Han Riang, the first law enforcer of Penglai Palace, Han 1's firstborn, and an early 4-axis stage cultivator. I will convey your sentiments to the Palace Lord. Yes, before we subdue Seo Eun-hyun, our sect's traitor, I will distribute information regarding Seo Eun-hyun to you all. John Myung-hoon takes out a storage scroll, from which he extracts dozens of jade slips. Whoosh! The jade slips fly from his hand into the grasp of the cultivators gathered here. Over the past 5 years, our Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder Sect's pursuit team has been investigating Seo Eun-hyun and his abilities. John Myung-hoon recalls the past 5 years. His former fellow disciple, Seo Eun-hyun, had openly shown signs of being around the Mad Lord during the last 5 years. Especially, there were numerous accounts of seeing Seo Eun-hyun in the Mad Lord's wonderfully mysterious fortress, and tales of Seo Eun-hyun using his unique curse spells there prompted the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder Sect to investigate the Mad Lord's movements. In the process, they were able to learn about the power Seo Eun-hyun had hidden from the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder Sect. One of the mercenary cultivators who received the jade slip chuckles. Are we supposed to believe this? He practices lightning path methods, puppetry, curse spells, heaven and earth dual cultivation, can use devilish arts, is proficient in poison, and even has a demon beast with him. Yes, according to our investigation, he is such a person, and there's even a possibility he's hiding something more. His power is 4-axis level? Wasn't he said to be at the nascent soul stage? Is this credible? As doubts about Seo Eun-hyun's power arise, Han Wei from Penglai Palace steps forward. I, Han Wei, the 7th law enforcer of Penglai Palace, have personally experienced it. He is a sword cultivator who has mastered the methods of heaven and earth dual cultivation, and he managed to subdue me even after taking a direct hit from the Mount Tai splitting emperor technique, without even using the other powers listed in this jade slip. We must assume his power is at least at the 4-axis stage. Moreover, as the greatest genius of the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder Sect who reached the nascent soul stage in less than 100 years, we cannot rule out the possibility that he has risen to the heavenly being stage by now. A monster indeed. Putting everything else aside, he was at the nascent soul stage and managed to subdue a cultivator of the heavenly being stage who executed the Mount Tai splitting emperor technique directly? Insane. The highest-ranking cultivator among the mercenaries, the 4-axis stage cultivator, Wei Li, clicked his tongue. Yes, and his knowledge of formations and basic techniques is profound enough that it's clear he has reached his realm through understanding before breakthrough. Yet he can also fight in a manner that suggests understanding after breakthrough. This is going to be an interesting hunt. Han Xion, the 2nd law enforcer of Penglai Palace and a 4-axis stage cultivator, licks his lips. John Myung-hoon, watching them, says, Initially, we planned to collaborate with the human race army to confront Seo Eun-hyun, who is currently holding off the forces of the human race in the Devil Realm. He slightly furrows his brows. However, for some reason, the human race army is only willing to support us with a single 1,000-man team, which practically leaves us to take down that guy on our own. A 1,000-man team means 1 heavenly being stage cultivator and 10 nascent soul stage cultivators? almost a negligible force. That's right. Essentially, the real power of this Co Unhyun punitive force lies in everyone gathered here. And, as I explained earlier, the sect traitor Co Unhyun is such a formidable opponent. Therefore, before we proceed to subdue Co Unhyun, I suggest we appoint a commander to lead the punitive force, if that's all right. Upon John Myung-hoon's words, Wei Li, the 4-axis stage cultivator from the mercenary group, and Han Riang and Han Cheon, the first and second law enforcers of Panglai Palace, step forward. Then let's decide on a commander among us. You speak the truth, brother. Well, truthfully, we just need to decide among ourselves, the first and second law enforcers of Panglai Palace, right? Han Cheon glanced at Wei Li, snickers, and crosses his arms. Wei Li sneers back and says, young masters who know nothing of the world's terrors leading the punitive force? That won't do. How could young masters, who have never faced a real life or death situation, lead us? Haha. To dare to stand equal with the law enforcers of the great Panglai Palace without having even formed an axis, don't you think that's absurd? Han Riang dismisses Wei Li with a bold smile, and sparks seem to fly between Wei Li, Han Riang, and Han Cheon. After stepping back a bit, Wei Li speaks. Well then, if the two law enforcers take command, which of you will lead? At that, Han Riang smiles benignly and says, Han Cheon, I think such a heavy responsibility should be placed on this older brother. I fear you're too young and might mess things up. What are you saying, brother? It would be too cruel to burden you, my aged and ailing brother, with such a heavy burden. As the younger brother, I feel terribly guilty. Sparks seem to fly again between the two brothers, and Wei Li, with a smirk, tries to insert himself between them. That's when John Myung-hoon steps forward and speaks. My point was simply to let the strongest person here take the role of the punitive force leader. At his words, smiles appear on the faces of the 3-4-axis stage cultivators. That's a good idea. Then, let's have a simple spar right here. Suddenly, Wei Li's hand holds 3 daggers. An ominous energy flows from the daggers, and both Han Riang and Han Cheon manifest rings of energy around their fists and legs. Shortly after, the 3-4-axis stage cultivators clash in the air. Kugwagwagwagwang. Above the true Devil Realm's dimensional gate. 10 li above the entrance, a gigantic sphere of light appears due to the aftermath of the cultivator's spar, obliterating everything inside. Soon after, Wei Li is flung out of the sphere. Spitting out blood as he is flung out, Wei Li chuckles. Damn Mount Tai splitting Emperor technique. I didn't expect it to be so powerful. Kagugugu. After the light subsides, only Han Riang and Han Cheon remain in the air. The two law enforcers glare at each other for a moment before, without deciding who is first, raise their hands. Black and white immortal devil energy flow from each of their hands. Mount Tai, splitting Emperor. In an instant, energies of the Yin and Yang 5 elements seem to rise above their bodies, and they unleash tearing strikes at each other. Once again, the heavens are dyed with light, and Han Riang is the one to fall below. Hee. So, the pure power of the Mount Tai splitting Emperor technique isn't enough to match you. Spitting out blood as he falls, Han Riang wears a bitter smile. Han Cheon, also bleeding from his mouth, bursts into wild laughter within the light. Ha! Brother, you should rest well. I will take charge of this punitive force and deliver the best outcome to our Lord. TCH, do as you wish. Just then. Now then, since it's been proven that the second law enforcer is the strongest among the 3, I will offer the second law enforcer an opportunity to spar with me. What? At John Myung-hoon's statement, a look of incomprehension crosses Han Cheon's face. Did I hear that wrong? You spar with me? It seems you heard correctly. Are you mad? A mere nascent soul stage against me, who has already formed one of the 5-axis, a true 4-axis cultivator? It seems you're unaware of the power of the Mount Tai splitting Emperor technique. I'm sorry, but I believe my method is not far behind the Mount Tai splitting Emperor technique. John Myung-hoon smirks as he takes a step forward. Seeing his expression, Han Cheon bursts into roaring laughter. Ha! Well, that's the spirit a man should have. Come at me, then. Han Cheon gestures with his fingers, inviting John Myung-hoon to attack. You really think you can beat me? The next moment, crack. Before Han Cheon can react, John Myung-hoon is already striking his face. What? Crunch. John Myung-hoon had thrust a spear made of golden heavenly lightning into Han Cheon's jaw. Kook, so fast. Whoosh. Using the flying escape technique to counter John Myung-hoon's speed, Han Cheon quickly regenerates his jaw and reaches out his hand. Yin and Yang 5 elements energy gathers around John Myung-hoon. But if you're hit even once by the Mount Tai splitting Emperor technique. However, before the Yin and Yang 5 elements energy can fully encase John Myung-hoon, he swiftly breaks free from the elemental shackles and rushes at Han Cheon, thrusting the spear into his abdomen. Kook you. Han Cheon grimaces. Too fast. I need to use my flying escape technique constantly just to keep up. Whoosh. Han Xion's body is enveloped in the dull glow of the flying escape technique, turning into a blur of light and barely keeping up with John Myung-hoon's pace. Laughing boldly, Han Xion says, "Well, I admit the lightning path method is a bit fast, but at this pace, I can catch up." Crackle. John Myung-hoon, without saying a word, emits red lightning, and Six Flags spring up behind him. Soon, transforming into the Six Flags Thunder Giant, John Myung-hoon begins to furiously wave them. As you grow bigger, it actually becomes easier to execute the Mount Tai Splitting Emperor technique. But the next moment, rumble. 7 colored lightning burrows into Han Xion's defenses, and for a moment, Han Xion's entire body is paralyzed and unable to move. Seizing the opportunity, John Myung-hoon's lightning surges from all directions, targeting Han Xion. Damn, paralysis. Damn it. He grits his teeth internally, his eyes bloodshot. I'll be defeated like this. This can't be. No matter how much of a genius he is, how can I be bested by a brat who hasn't even lived 100 years? To think his mere lightning path method could surpass the sect's Mount Tai Splitting Emperor technique. I won't accept it. Erf. Kagugugu. With white and black energy swirling in his hands, Han Xion grits his teeth. The Mount Tai Splitting Emperor technique is a divine skill directly taught by the mountain god to the first Penglai Palace Lord. It won't lose to something like the lightning path method. John Myung-hoon, transformed into the Thunder Giant, dodges Han Xion's attacks here and there, observing him. Strange. I wasn't planning to play around like this, but seeing that Mount Tai Splitting Emperor technique made my competitive spirit surge. It felt as if the red lightning heavenly tribulation method he had learned was crying out to trample the Mount Tai Splitting Emperor technique. Feeling fresh from this unprecedented sensation while practicing his methods, John Myung-hoon dodges all of Han Xion's attacks and prepares for the next attack. Here I go. John Myung-hoon, transformed into the very embodiment of the lightning spirit, unleashes the full power of the red lightning heavenly tribulation. The next moment, John Myung-hoon transforms into a spear of red lightning, pierces through Han Xion who was gathering energy in his hands, and soars into the sky. Crackle. Red lightning fills the sky. Thus, by proving himself as the strongest among the group, John Myung-hoon takes on the role of the leader of the Seo Eun-hyun punitive force. Rumble. Under the dark sky of the Devil Realm, hundreds of cultivators are flying. Leading them with a dull red glow is John Myung-hoon, followed by the 3-4-axis stage cultivators with slightly discontent expressions. After a while, as they soar through the sky of the Devil Realm, they spot a group of figures flying from afar. It's the 1,000-man team, consisting of 1 heavenly being stage cultivator and 10 nascent soul stage cultivators. We come as support from the human race army. Are you heading to confront that monster, Seo Eun-hyun, in that basin ahead? That's right. Let us share the information we've gathered on Seo Eun-hyun as we go. John Myung-hoon receives a jade slip with information from the 1,000-man general and reads it. It contains slightly more detailed information than what John Myung-hoon had investigated over the last 5 years. Thank you. John Myung-hoon passes the jade slip back and furrows his brows. The power of Seo Eun-hyun described in the jade slip exceeds his imagination. Above all, Hong Fan's mastery of poison is the most troublesome. With a low cultivation, inhaling the wrong poison can be fatal. He asks the heavenly being stage cultivator who had come to support. By the way, if Seo Eun-hyun is considered a traitor for hindering the occupation of the Devil Realm by the Human Race Grand Alliance, why hasn't he been dealt with until now? Actually, that's because the strategy department, the mystical scaled fish commanding sect, issued an order not to touch that monster. What does that mean? John Myung-hoon frowns upon the unexpected mention of the mystical scaled fish commanding sect, one of the human race's 6 major sects. The Penglai Palace openly declared they would hunt him down, but the mystical scaled fish commanding sect directly opposes it? Are they planning to start a war between the 6 major sects? Sensing John Myung-hoon's dissatisfaction, the captain explains further. To be precise, we were ordered to leave the monster Seo Eun-hyun alone for 5 years, even if he hinders our advancement. 5 years? I was under the impression that the human race army only recently encountered Seo Eun-hyun. Yes, that's correct. Until then, the poison presumed to be spread by Seo Eun-hyun's demon beast had slowed our advance, requiring time to reach him. Hence, the other 1,000-man generals and 10,000-man commanders are waiting for the time specified in the strategy department's order to pass. In 5 years, it will be exactly 10 years since he betrayed the sect. What's with the mystical scaled fish commanding sect all of a sudden? This doesn't directly oppose Penglai Palace, but why suddenly? Feeling uneasy, John Myung-hoon follows the 1,000-man general's lead and moves forward. Shortly after, a vast mountain range appears before the punitive force. The mountain range, atypical for the devil realm, is enveloped in dense spiritual energy, taking the form of a basin and encompassing the entire surrounding area. That area is where the monster Seo Eun-hyun has settled. We don't know what he's doing, but he's eroding the entire region with the vast cold jade and making it impossible for anyone to enter, causing headaches for the expeditionary force. Thanks for the information. Then first, John Myung-hoon raises his hand. A lightning spear materialized in his grasp. Whoosh. He throws the lightning spear with all his might, and it rushes towards the mountain range. That's when, click, 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 from beneath the land of the mountain range, dozens of puppets suddenly appear and open their mouths. Flash. The puppets, eerily resembling Seo Eun-hyun, simultaneously unleash beams, and John Myung-hoon's lightning spear is directly annihilated. As you can see, such puppets are swarming throughout the entire mountain range. Each one's strike is equivalent to that of a nascent soul stage cultivator, making it very difficult to penetrate inside. Hearing the general's words, John Myung-hoon briefly looks at the mountain range and then smirks bitterly. Crack, crackle. Red lightning bursts from his entire body. Well, good. I didn't expect it to be easy to break through. It has to be at least this much to be Seo Eun-hyun. He smiles, recalling the once insurmountable wall that was Seo Eun-hyun. From now on, we begin the punitive expedition against the traitor of the sect, Seo Eun-hyun. Crack, crackle. 6 flags sprout from behind John Myung-hoon, and the punitive force begins to raise their own innate techniques. Thus the battle to subdue Seo Eun-hyun begins. Translator note, Seo Eun-hyun is a raid boss. Chapter 258, Heavenly Tribulation, 10. Translator, Translating Novice. Editor, Z0rel. Kugugugugu. As John Myung-hoon and the punitive force begin to gather their energy, the entire mountain starts to vibrate. What is that? This is insane. From various places all over the mountain, an uncountable number of puppets begin to emerge. Like a swarm of insects, the numerous puppets make everyone's faces turn pale. But they're all just nascent soul level. Let the heavenly being stage cultivators break through. At that command, the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder Sect and Penglai Palace's heavenly being stage cultivators step forward. As the heavenly being stage cultivators form their hand signs, the surrounding heaven and earth spiritual energy vibrates and moves according to their will, forming waves. Go. As the wave of spiritual energy surges towards the insect-like puppet swam, the nascent soul stage puppets fail to resist and are crushed to death. The mountain range is forming some kind of formation. We need to bring down the mountain itself. 3 heavenly being stage law enforcers from Penglai Palace step forward, each beginning to exert their techniques. The 3 law enforcers, positioned in 3 directions, form a 3 disasters formation and begin to amplify their energy within it. Despite the mountain range being immensely larger than a regular mountain and emitting an unusual energy, gradually, the energy from the heavenly being stage law enforcers begin to overpower the mountain's energy. Depart. When the heavenly being stage law enforcers complete their hand signs, the energy transforms into a giant dragon-shaped mass of light and flies towards the mountain range. Kugugugugu. As the dragon-shaped energy touches the mountain range and the formation manifested through it, it shakes violently, flickering as if it will collapse at any moment. However, just then, crack, a dark figure appears, grabs the dragon-shaped light mass with both arms, and crushes it. Boom. The light mass dissipates, and John Myung-hoon looks at the dark figure. It's you again. The figure, resembling the puppets that had crawled out from all over the mountain like insects, but made of much finer materials and with a much more complex process, as evidenced by the complex circuits faintly glowing all over its body, resembles Seo Eun-hyun quite closely. True Origin General Seo opens its mouth. Quang. A burst of light erupts from General Seo's mouth, aiming at the punitive force. Han Xion steps forward and stretches out his hand, blocking General Seo's beam. The light splits in all directions upon hitting Han Xion's hand, but Han Xion frowns. Quite painful. A puppet at the 4-axis stage, is it? Before he can react further, General Seo stomps fiercely. Boom. A massive vibration spreads in all directions, and once again, countless puppets begin to emerge from the mountain. Seeing this, Han Riang lets out a dry laugh. How many nascent soul puppets did he create? What a monster. Of course, to cultivators, there's nothing more foolish than relying on numbers. At Han Riang's signal, the heavenly being stage cultivators from Penglai Palace step forward again to form hand signs. That's when, boom, flash, General Seo's mouth fires another beam cannon, disrupting the heavenly being stage cultivators attempting to cast their spells on the nascent soul stage puppets. However, Han Riang scoffs. Spread out and target the nascent soul puppets. Anyway, That puppet cannon can't fire more than one at a time. And at that very moment, General Sio's shoulders, chest, abdomen, knees, and palms open, and heads similar to General Sio's begin to emerge. Click, click, click. The heads that sprouted all over General Sio's body each open their mouths and begin firing beams in all directions simultaneously. Damn it. Evade. Han Riang's previously relaxed face contorts, and he steps forward in front of the heavenly being stage cultivators, gathering his strength. 3 4-axis stage cultivators, including John Myung-hoon, step forward to block General Sio's beams. Let's push through in one go. Everyone advance. Understood. Under John Myung-hoon's command, the 3 4-axis stage cultivators begin flying towards General Sio, facing the beams head-on. Suddenly, above General Sio, a sphere of yin and yang 5 elements emerges. Han Riang and Han Xion simultaneously extend their hands, starting to gather energy. But the next moment, whoosh, 8 blue wings sprout from General Sio's back. What? A storm of light far more massive than the previous beams fly towards Han Riang and Han Xion. The yin and yang 5 elements restraint around General Sio is instantly shattered and torn apart, and Han Riang and Han Xion curse as they are forced to retreat. John Myung-hoon also retreats from the aftermath of General Sio's Azure Wing Heavenly Shatter. Meanwhile, Wei Li, cloaked in yin energy for stealth, manages to position himself behind General Sio. Just as Wei Li, wielding a dagger Dharma treasure, attempts to stab at General Sio's back. Click. General Sio's back opens, revealing a Taiji symbol inside. What? Quadragigic. A massive pillar of lightning erupts from behind General Sio. Simultaneously, General Sio's form changes once again. The head on top split into 2, each imbued with yin energy and yang energy. John Myung-hoon frowns at the sight. Taiji quaking lighting body. Hearing this, the other 4-axis stage cultivators let out a dry chuckle. A puppet employing such a diversity of methods. It's practically at the mid-4-axis stage. In addition, Sutsutsu, not only true origin General Sio, but also the mass-produced General Sios scattered around begin to emit dark curse spells. Han Riang looks at the curse and says, each of those puppets is a cursed doll laden with curses. If we allow even a speck of injury while fighting them, they will transform into a cursed doll that is linked with us, making it so if we attack them, we end up attacking each other. What a damn piece of work. Wei Li spits out a suppressed swear. Dragging it out like this will drain our strength. But the real issue is Sio Eunhyun himself hasn't wasted any energy and is conserving his strength. If we expend all our energy here, it'll be just like handing over our information to him and losing our chance to fight Sio Eunhyun. At Wei Li's words, Han Riang looks at him and asks, so what do you suggest? That General Sio, although at the mid-4-axis stage, operates on a set of rules like a puppet. I'll study its patterns and keep it at bay. In the meantime, quickly hurry into the mountain range and defeat Sio Eunhyun. Understood. John Myung-hoon nods firmly, leaving behind a few heavenly being and nascent soul stage cultivators, including Wei Li, and they quickly move beyond the mountain range. Quong. General Sio charges at them with its mouth wide open. However, Wei Li spits out a chain-shaped Dharma treasure from his mouth, and the dark chains wrap around General Sio. Your opponent is me. Boom. General Sio charges at Wei Li, and the 2 4-axis stage beings begin their fast-paced exchange. Boom. Crossing the mountain range, John Myung-hoon frowns. Within the mountain range, the area is filled with dark miasma. It's poison. Everyone, stop all forms of breathing, including skin respiration. At Han Xion's word, all the cultivators begin to hold their breaths, casting protective spells. As they enter the miasma in this state, KRRRGH. In an instant, the nascent soul elders start staggering, showing signs of poisoning. What the? John Myung-hoon and the heavenly being stage grand elders all jump in surprise, turning to look at the elders. And the next moment, John Myung-hoon feels dizzy. Damn, I see. The heaven and earth spiritual energy itself is imbued with poison. Even if we hold our breath, those at the nascent soul stage and below structurally have to inhale the surrounding spiritual energy, so they get poisoned without even breathing the air. He guesses who the creator of the poison is. Hong Fan. Remembering the centipede demon beast that had given him strength and support in his most desperate times, with whom he had been close, John Myung-hoon's eyes blaze with fury. Crackling. John Myung-hoon's entire body erupts with red lightning, transforming him into a form resembling a lightning spirit. KRGH. I'll have to stay in this state for now. Everyone, those who are poisoned, gather in one place and quietly perform your cultivation methods. Are you sure? What if we are attacked in the fog? John Myung-hoon shakes his head. This poison is formidable, but given the maker's character, He wouldn't disturb those who are cultivating to recover from the poison. Seo Eun-hyun might be unreliable, but Hong Fan, who had consistently shown a certain demeanor, is trustworthy. Trusting in Hong Fan's character, John Myung-hoon gathers those immobilized by the poison to a less toxic area to expel the poison. Bite on a detoxifying pill. And John Myung-hoon surveys his surroundings. Due to Hong Fan's poison, all forces at the nascent soul stage and below are rendered incapable of combat in an instant. Damn it. Only 5 heavenly being stage cultivators stay here to take care of the poison cultivators. Those who are fine continue to advance forward. John Myung-hoon grieves his teeth and advances. Han Riang read the flow of the formations and points the way. The energy of the formation is gathering over there. Let's head in that direction. Understood. Han Riang, Han Xion, and John Myung-hoon leads the heavenly being stage cultivators and fly forward. Wait, this is... Stop. Han Riang suddenly scrunches his face and shouts. However, the next moment, the energy of the formation twists and Han Riang feels himself being thrown to an isolated area. The same happens to John Myung-hoon and Han Xion. Han Riang frowns. The layout of the formation is incredibly complicated. I've heard that the formation skills of Jin Wei, whom Father asked us to capture, are significant. Could it be true? He tries to explore his surroundings with his consciousness, but the energy of the formation crushes Han Riang's attempt, preventing him from fully extending his consciousness domain. It's when he looks around. Far off, through the poison, 2 figures appear. Taoist John Han Xion. His face lights up, ready to rush over, but then stops to raise his guard. Who are you? But those who appeared from beyond the poisonous fog are not Hien Riang's companions, but a white-haired hunched old man in black clothes, biting a bamboo pipe, and a beauty clad in a bright red robe with looks so enchanting that they are almost bewitching. Greetings. Sorry for the suddenness, but according to my master's command, I must bind you for a while. The old man in black, Hong Fan, speaks, and Han Riang chuckles in response. Do you really think you two, who appear to be merely at the nascent soul stage, can challenge me? What an amusing joke. He smirks and points his finger at Hong Fan. Explode and die. Boom. However, it isn't Hong Fan who explodes, but the beauty in the bright red robe beside him, Yuan Yu. A cursed doll? All impacts directed at that old demon in disguise are absorbed by that cursed doll. Suck, 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 suck. He snorts at the sight of Yuan Yu writhing and regenerating its body. Interesting trick. Except for unique cases like Taoist John, you nascent soul stage beings are nothing but insects that can be stomped to death. Just dot. Snap. In the next moment, Hong Fan snaps his fingers. Kugagugagu. Simultaneously, Han Riang feels an enormous weight descend upon him. I've learned a bit about formations from Jin Wei Nim over the past few years. Formations are truly fascinating. With little strength, one can overpower a strong enemy, which seems to have quite a bit in common with poison. What? Snap. As Hong Fan snaps his fingers again, the formation's energy constricts around Han Riang to the point it's even difficult to breathe. This is insane. Aside from the power of the formation, that guy, he's handling this vast and complex formation like it's part of his body. As Hong Fan moves his right hand, the surrounding energy shifts, amplifying the power of the formation. Moving his left, the poison on the ground changes properties, mixing into a completely different kind of poison. You insect? Han Riang tries to reach out to Hong Fan, but in the next moment, his senses flip upside down. Damn it, the formation's confusing my senses. Thud. Han Riang falls to one knee. What? Why can't I exert any strength? Am I affected by poison? He looks at his skin turning black with a troubled expression. Hong Fan strokes his beard and chuckles heartily. How could someone as lowly as me create a poison that affects a 4-axis senior? It's just, what's laid out here is not only my poison. What? This is... Chi-I-I. Han Riang sees tiny curses climbing his arm and clenches his teeth. He hadn't noticed due to the formation's energy and poison concealing them. But beneath the dark poison, curse spells are densely laid out. While Hong Fan distracted Han Riang with the formation and poison, curse spells from the ground had already been absorbed into him. You. Kururu. As Han Riang punches the ground, the energy of the formation shifts, constricting him even more violently in return. Han Riang feels as if he is being swallowed alive by a snake, kneeling before Hong Fan. How could I, even if within the enemy's maw, and with it being difficult to handle someone skilled in poison arts, be overpowered by a nascent soul stage demon beast? He wants to resist, but his energy starts to wane. My brother has been defeated. Han Xion frowns, looking into the dark, poisonous fog. He can feel, coursing through his veins, that his brother had been overpowered. This is no time to hesitate. I must quickly regroup with John Myung-hoon. We're being defeated in detail. Recalling the energy he had secretly attached to John Myung-hoon during their initial encounter at the entrance to the Devil Realm. He senses John Myung-hoon's location. Although unable to fully extend his consciousness due to the influence of the formation, his unique cultivation method allows him to approximate John Myung-hoon's whereabouts. Soon, Han Cheon and John Myung-hoon reunite. Finally found you. My brother has been captured. He's not dead, but he's in a critical situation. I couldn't find the Heavenly Being Stage Grand Elders. It seems impossible to break the formation rashly. Attacking it from the inside only tightens its grip. John Myung-hoon scowls at the poison-filled formation. Hearing this, Han Cheon squints and asks, "Is there any way?" "There is." "What is it?" "Defeat Seo Eun-hyun." At that, Han Cheon responds irritably. Even a 3-year-old could give that answer. "Stop joking and..." "It's no joke." John Myung-hoon looks at Han Cheon and says, "Just stand guard for a moment. We're close to him. If I concentrate a little, I think I can find his location." "How?" "The cultivation method I've learned and the one he has learned are almost like siblings. The extinguishing divine, tribulating heavens technique, which only becomes revealed upon learning all the methods of the golden divine heavenly thunder sect, and the red lightning heavenly tribulation method, which can be attained by mastering the basic method of the sect and showcasing all its features when fully mastered." John Myung-hoon feels a kinship between the two methods. It seems the founder of the sect, the golden deity, designed these two techniques to be similar. I get the feeling that the two methods are interconnected. He closes his eyes, listening to the voice of lightning. Previously, the lightning had spoken to him in a sticky, bewitching voice, revealing the intricacies of the red lightning heavenly tribulation method. But ever since Seo Eun-hyun ran away with the heavenly lightning banner, John Myung-hoon started hearing a different voice of lightning. It still speaks to him as lightning always had. Yet, the voice he hears recently is much softer, weaker, and more comforting than the one before. Murmuring, he follows the voice of lightning. "Find Seo Eun-hyun." John Myung-hoon silently asks the voice with guidance. "ZZZT, ZZZT, ZZT." Though his consciousness is blocked, the lightning bestows knowledge upon him. Scenes of places where electricity flows begin to clearly emerge in John Myung-hoon's mind. Han Cheon standing next to him, emitting bioelectricity. Hong Fan, who is dealing with Hien Riang, and Yuan Yu, the blood body, standing beside him. The scattered heavenly being cultivators. And Seo Eun-hyun, the unmistakably alien presence of Seo Eun-hyun, who emits a transparent voice of lightning, enters John Myung-hoon's mind. John Myung-hoon glares at the figure of Seo Eun-hyun that entered his mind. "There you are." Just then, swoosh. Seo Eun-hyun, who had been quietly standing afar, locks eyes with John Myung-hoon's gaze. Startled, John Myung-hoon is taken aback and opens his eyes. "I've found him." "Found him? Where should we go?" "Head north. He's waiting for us." Han Cheon and John Myung-hoon use their flying escape technique to fly. John Myung-hoon bites his lip as he forces his way through the poison. He remembers when Seo Eun-hyun sensed him through the voice of lightning. The moment their eyes met. It's always been like that. For some reason, Seo Eun-hyun always seems to know everything. Seeing what cannot be seen, hearing what cannot be heard, perceiving what does not exist, as if he is always gazing at another world. "What are you really looking at, Seo Eun-hyun? Why did you betray the sect?" John Myung-hoon bites his lip hard enough to draw blood as he flies towards Seo Eun-hyun. Boom. The place where John Myung-hoon and Han Cheon arrive is a clearing unaffected by the poison. "Seo Eun-hyun. Kwajajijik." John Myung-hoon shouts at Seo Eun-hyun, who is waiting for him with a calm expression, holding the colorless glass sword. "I've come." Seo Eun-hyun smiles softly. "You've come too early. No more words are needed." Flash. John Myung-hoon and Seo Eun-hyun almost simultaneously become light. Han Cheon also gathers his energy and shouts to John Myung-hoon. "Just hold him off for a moment. I'll feed him the Mount Tai splitting emperor technique." In an instant, John Myung-hoon and Seo Eun-hyun clash weapons. John Myung-hoon unleashes the heavenly tribulation he had accumulated over time. Lightning bolts turn into lightning spears in John Myung-hoon's hands. He becomes the lightning itself, storming Seo Eun-hyun with relentless attacks. Seo Eun-hyun does not become lightning. He doesn't even use the flying escape technique. He simply moves earnestly. Yet, with that alone, he matches the lightning-transformed John Myung-hoon, wielding the glass sword to deflect all of John Myung-hoon's lightning spears. I still can't win. John Myung-hoon instinctively knows. He still can't defeat Seo Eun-hyun. Despite rushing in with all his power from the start, he can feel that Seo Eun-hyun is still holding back his strength. Even if Wei Li and Han Riang had joined the assault, it's likely we wouldn't have been able to defeat him. Seo Eun-hyun still appears to have numerous techniques hidden, still full of composure. That leisurely gaze. John Myung-hoon grits his teeth as he looks into those eyes. "Use your technique." "Kururum." John Myung-hoon's body swells. 6 arms sprout from his body, each holding a flag of 6 different colors. John Myung-hoon's head splits into 2, 1 male and 1 female, with a Taiji symbol rotating behind him. Kurururu. Around the dantian of the giant thunder giant, 64 hexagrams rotate, forming a thunder palace. John Myung-hoon's 6 arms move frantically. Both halves of his split head emit black and white lightning, and the speed of the thunder giant begins to increase. Reveal more power. Seo Eun-hyun. Gradually, Seo Eun-hyun fails to keep up with John Myung-hoon's movements. And, at a certain point, John Myung-hoon sees a pale, misty aura emanating from around Seo Eun-hyun. He's using his power for real now. Uwung. Wong. With a slash from Seo Eun-hyun, John Myung-hoon tenses up even more. The power of the sword strike increased. That pale mist is maximizing his physical abilities. He feels an instinctive warning and momentarily retreats before becoming a streak of red meteor rushing towards Seo Eun-hyun. Flash. For a moment, John Myung-hoon becomes a red lightning spear. At that moment, he becomes incomparably fast, and Seo Eun-hyun, startled, hastily defends. Boom. A loud noise erupts. But John Myung-hoon smiles bitterly. That was the strongest attack I could muster. Chang. Suddenly, the lightning emanating from John Myung-hoon seems to have been completely discharged, and his form returns back to human form from the thunder giant. Seo Eun-hyun looks at John Myung-hoon calmly and says, "You need to train more. You're still far off." "Yeah, I guess so. Haha, I probably can't beat you. But you know." John Myung-hoon looks up at Seo Eun-hyun and smirks. "Still, you were distracted by me for a moment, weren't you?" King. Above Seo Eun-hyun, the Taiji symbol of Yin and Yang 5 elements appears. Speed is my advantage over that guy's technique, allowing me to win outside, but John Myung-hoon steps back. Han Xion, with black and white energy swirling around his hands, rushes towards Seo Eun-hyun. In terms of raw power itself, his Mount Tai splitting emperor technique is far more overwhelming. Han Xion shouts, "Mount Tai." John Myung-hoon sports a venomous smile, and for a moment, tension swirls in Seo Eun-hyun's eyes. Splitting emperor. As if pouring all his spiritual power into this attack, Han Xion's face turns pale as he executes the attack. Zizing. The next moment, light explodes. Sure 3. Haha. John Myung-hoon and Han Xion gasp for breath on the spot. John Myung-hoon had used up all his stamina in the fight against Seo Eun-hyun, and Han Xion had poured all his strength into that last strike. With anticipation in his voice, Han Xion speaks. We did it." "Shut up." John Myung-hoon cuts off Han Xion's words with an irritable voice. "You're sure you finished him off for good? How dare you underestimate the Mount Tai splitting emperor technique?" The Mount Tai splitting emperor technique distinguishes the essence of Qi, then divides Qi into 7 parts based on Yin and Yang and the 5 elements to disintegrate the opponent. It is said that if one reaches the plane of fate and becomes a true immortal through the Mount Tai splitting emperor technique, even fate can be split into 7 pieces. To underestimate the Mount Tai splitting emperor technique is, "Yeah, I get it. Your technique is great." John Myung-hoon ignores Han Xion's rambling, not letting go of his vigilance, and unfolds his storage scroll to reach inside. Kagugugu. The spiritual energy from the spirit stones inside the storage scroll flows into John Myung-hoon, restoring his spiritual power. "Hey, how about sharing some spirit stones with me? You're from the wealthy Panglai Palace. Use your own." And John Myung-hoon looks back at Han Xion and sneers. "Your Mount Tai splitting emperor technique, it seems like it didn't work." "What?" Step. A naked Seo Eun-hyun emerges through the dust cloud. That just now. His flesh is charred and torn in places. It appears he had taken significant damage from the recent strike. "I almost died for real." The Mount Tai splitting emperor technique is indeed formidable. Even more malicious than Cultivator Han Wei's attack. Han Xion's pupils shrink. "How did you survive that?" "Sorry to say, but I triple reinforced my body." King. Circuit-like patterns glow faintly all over Seo Eun-hyun's body. Faint devilish energy shines, healing his body, and though it is subtle, a power reminiscent of a sword envelopes his entire body. "Having to pass the attack's power to my cursed dolls because I couldn't handle it all even after reinforcing my body shows it is indeed quite impressive. But that's all it is. Especially you, John Myung-hoon. Had you reached the heavenly being stage, you might have been worth a go, but you're still too inexperienced. Go back. I've made a promise with Hong Surayong not to kill you, and I intend to keep it. What I'm doing is not betraying the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect." At that moment, John Myung-hoon stands up. "What do you mean it's not betrayal?" He glares at Seo Eun-hyun with bloodshot eyes. "Do you even realize how many people were hurt and shocked by your actions?" Without even offering an explanation, You've wasted the efforts and cultivation that others have built up over all this time in the sect. And how many people have been deeply hurt, deeply shocked by your reckless actions, claiming it's all because of some artifact. What do you think you know? I can't explain. I'm sorry. Everyone feels a deep sense of betrayal from your actions, having been a cherished genius of the sect. You are. Crack, crackle. Red thunder surrounds John Myung-hoon. Co Eun-hyun, slightly raising his vigilance, points the colorless glass sword at him. I don't know what you're trying to do, but don't. I'll cut you. Hee. Those eyes that always seem to know what I'm about to do really get on my nerves. Are you reading my mind too, huh? Co Eun-hyun narrows his eyes. In his gaze, John Myung-hoon's overly confident inner thoughts are exposed. Something is dangerous. Don't move your hand. I'll cut it right away. Co Eun-hyun focuses on John Myung-hoon's storage scroll. Think you can cut me? You think I can't? The next moment, flash. Lightning transformed John Myung-hoon's hand reaches for the storage scroll, and Co Eun-hyun, becoming light for an instant, swings his sword. Schlick. John Myung-hoon's arm is severed, but John Myung-hoon smiles. I've been waiting for you to come closer. Kagugugu. Heaven and earth spiritual energy surges around John Myung-hoon. A look of realization flashes across Co Eun-hyun's face. Simultaneously, John Myung-hoon's microcosm begins to communicate with the nature of heaven and earth. I've practiced countless times with only one goal in mind, to punish the traitor. Thunder rumbles ominously. I've come this far, turning that anger into madness, just to punish you. Golden and blue lights roar in the sky. John Myung-hoon begins his breakthrough to the heavenly being stage. Boom. Co Eun-hyun hastily retreats to avoid the heavenly tribulation striking down on John Myung-hoon. However, in that moment, he sees John Myung-hoon regenerating his arm and reaching for the storage scroll. Damn. Co Eun-hyun cuts off John Myung-hoon's arm again as he glares at him. However, he was unable to completely block John Myung-hoon's technique in the process of severing his arm. When John Myung-hoon completes his hand sign, the heavenly tribulation twists and strikes down on Co Eun-hyun. Our ancestral founder often used this method, didn't he? It has been passed down as a technique exclusive to those of the heavenly golden thunder body. Quadragigic. Co Eun-hyun takes the brunt of John Myung-hoon's heavenly tribulation. The more Co Eun-hyun resists, the more fiercely the heavens lash out, furious at the attempt to overcome the tribulation through trickery. Quadragigic. The range of the tribulation expands, eventually engulfing both John Myung-hoon and Co Eun-hyun. Despite also being hit by the tribulation only seems to intensify following John Myung-hoon's hand sign. Sharurik. Co Eun-hyun sees John Myung-hoon regenerate his arm and reach for the storage scroll again. Damn, the heavenly tribulation is getting stronger. If this continues, his body will be torn apart by the lightning. Retreating from John Myung-hoon would have ended it. However, Co Eun-hyun can't retreat. A foreboding feeling warns him. Retreating now will be a regret he'd gnash his teeth over. Co Eun-hyun finally begins to use his techniques against the tribulation. Dark curses appear, weakening the heavenly tribulation, while would attribute techniques fire at it, neutralizing it. Co Eun-hyun reveals his formless sword, slicing through the heavenly tribulation and advancing towards John Myung-hoon. Yet, the tribulation only grows stronger. Damn, the heavens are enraged, pouring down endless heavenly lightning. Tricking the heavens only makes it angrier. No matter how powerful you are, Co Eun-hyun, you cannot overcome the heavens. Within the massive column of heavenly tribulation, the two men glare at each other. Co Eun-hyun grits his teeth. Despite exerting his full power, the tribulation is becoming too overwhelming to bear. At this rate, he will be reduced to ashes. Co Eun-hyun's judgment is swift. Boom. Chiing. As Co Eun-hyun forms a hand sign, the 5 elements blood curse banner he had previously implanted in John Myung-hoon activates. John Myung-hoon clutches his head in agony. Co Eun-hyun finally retreats from the column of lightning. However, at that moment, despite his pain, Jin Myung-hoon shakily reaches for the storage scroll. Co Eun-hyun frowns, intensifying his hand sign. The 5 elements blood curse banner exerts its maximum power. A scarlet light envelopes John Myung-hoon's head within the tribulation. It's now a battle against time. The moment the heavenly tribulation stops, I'll immediately suppress him and snatch the storage scroll. Yet, Co Eun-hyun observes John Myung-hoon with a wary gaze. If John Myung-hoon overcomes the pain of the 5 elements blood curse banner and reaches for the storage scroll before the tribulation ends, it will be John Myung-hoon's victory. Just give up, John Myung-hoon. Please trust me. I never intended to harm the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect. The red light enveloping John Myung-hoon's head intensifies even more. Bleeding from his forehead, He screams within the heavenly tribulation. What I'm trying to do is to save our fellow disciples of the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder Sect. Please, stop now, John Myung-hoon. Seo Eun-hyun vibrates the 5 elements blood curse banner even more intensely. But at some point, John Myung-hoon, with a devilish smile, gradually begins to move his hand towards the storage scroll. John Myung-hoon. Seo Eun-hyun. John Myung-hoon shouts, as if screaming. Although hard to hear over the rumbling thunder, Seo Eun-hyun can tell what John Myung-hoon is trying to say. Your master trusted you. With that, John Myung-hoon's hand enters the storage scroll. Flash. Simultaneously, the heavenly tribulation ceases. Seo Eun-hyun rushes towards John Myung-hoon in the blink of an eye. In that fleeting moment, he sees what John Myung-hoon pulls from the storage scroll. It's a white belt inscribed with the characters for heavenly lightning. The next moment, Seo Eun-hyun feels an unimaginably swift heavenly tribulation strike his body. Quorum. Instantly, Seo Eun-hyun is flung backwards. And then, John Myung-hoon stands up. The heavenly lightning belt, given to the highest grand elders of the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder Sect, is made by extracting the power of the heavenly lightning banner. With a fierce gleam in his eye, John Myung-hoon says to Seo Eun-hyun, "You didn't bring out the heavenly lightning banner. Were you afraid I'd steal it?" FZZT fizz. Seo Eun-hyun's pupils shrink. The white belt in John Myung-hoon's hand disperses. In its place, the heavenly lightning banner appears in his grasp. "I did my best to draw out your full power. Even if I summoned the heavenly lightning banner using the heavenly lightning belt, if you were stronger than me wielding the heavenly lightning banner, it'd be useless." However, John Myung-hoon laughs wildly as he wields the heavenly lightning banner. "Fortunately, your strength isn't quite at that level." The next moment, the heavenly lightning banner lends John Myung-hoon the greatest power it could offer in his current state. Translator notes, John Myung-hoon getting all cocky. I can definitely see the guy crying like a baby when he holds Jin Sohei's fried hand. Chapter 259, Heavenly Tribulation, 11. Translator, Translating Novice. Editor, Z0rel. Wawung. Where's this? I grab my dizzy head and stand up. You awake, you weak. Suddenly, I feel nauseous and vomit blood in pieces of my intestines. Hugh Guff. I look at my body. My body is golden brown and emitting smoke. Oh, I see. I remember. I had been fighting with John Myung-hoon, and after he came close to me, he used the heavenly lightning belt to summon the heavenly lightning banner nearby. The last thing I remember was him swinging the heavenly lightning banner. Hugh Kook. I look around, gasping for breath. The formations that Hong Fan and Jin Wei had put all their effort into creating are all gone. Hong Fan's poison had evaporated and disappeared, and in various places, disciples of the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder Sect are gaining strength, emitting overwhelming lightning power. Countless cultivators at the heavenly being and nascent soul stage are surrounding me. And, there in front, John Myung-hoon is looking down at me while holding the heavenly lightning banner. John Myung-hoon. I try to stand up, but my legs give out, and I collapse back down. Looking closely, my leg muscles are completely burnt, making it a miracle I could even move at all. The heavenly lightning banner. I clench my teeth. Where did it all go wrong? Should I have not listened to Hong Soo-ryong from the start, killed a few, or taken some as a hostage to drive them away? Or should I have torn John Myung-hoon to shreds so he couldn't even approach me? Or should I have just crippled his cultivation and spared his life? I don't know, but the outcome has already come to this. The heavenly lightning banner is in his hands. John Myung-hoon. I managed to regenerate my burnt vocal cords and squeeze out my words. Heavenly lightning banner must be sealed in the lower realm. Explain why. If I explain, all of you will go mad. That's not convincing. Please trust me. We did trust you until you betrayed us and stole the heavenly lightning banner. John Myung-hoon retorts back with a cold face. You betrayed our trust. Asking to be trusted? We did trust you. The supreme sect master, the sect leader, the next sect leader, your master, your followers, my lover, all the disciples of the sect, and me. With a face twisted in emotion, he shouts. We did trust you. But you betrayed all of that and ran away. No, that's not it. You can't explain? No, you just don't trust us. I don't know what world you're seeing. But you're not sharing the world you see with us, believing only you can judge it. It's not that you can't explain, you just choose not to. This is your last chance. Explain. I bite my lip. About the governing immortals, about the owner of heavenly punishment, about Zhongli, about Yang Su-jin, the Enders, and countless other unfathomable beings. How on earth am I supposed to open my mouth? I clench my teeth. But in the end, I can't open my mouth. John Myung-hoon looks at me with cold eyes. You mean you can't explain? I see. He rummages through his belongings and takes something out. It's the command token engraved with the words Ancestral Command. I, John Myung-hoon, disciple of Jin Jin-chan, owner of the same heavenly golden thunder body as the founding ancestor and the commander of the Co Un-hyun punitive force, declare by the ancestral command. Clang. The sound of my heart sinking can be heard. From this moment forth, I will permanently excommunicate Co Un-hyun from the golden divine heavenly thunder sect. Co Un-hyun, you are hereby permanently expelled. Wawoom. At the same time, a familiar will is felt from the ancestral command. It's the will of Yang Soo-jin. Expel. A giant character for expel is carved into the air and slowly descends towards me. Flash. The character seems to be engraved onto my body and then disappears. Chi. At the same time, I feel something. Clang, clang, clang. The celestial energy changes. Beyond the celestial energy, beyond fate, I feel the connection with the golden divine heavenly thunder sect that was tied to me completely severing. At the same time, I feel the transparent energy flowing within me changing. As befitting a ritual method, it's a technique directly linked to the changes in fate. Extinguishing divine, tribulating heavens. I can feel the extinguishing divine, tribulating heavens technique completely subjugating to me. At the same time, I understand the true intention of the extinguishing divine, tribulating heavens technique. So that was it. The one who cultivates the red lightning heavenly tribulation method leads the golden divine heavenly thunder sect and becomes their family. And by being abandoned by the family, denying themselves and severing the fate that bound me and the family together, I and those who were family become separated. Those separated are now non-humans with no relation to me. Therefore, sacrifice these non-humans, who were once a part of me, my constituents, to twist fate. Twist fate to reach a new future. That is it. Yang Soo-jin, who regarded everything as non-human, wanted to be happy even if it meant grinding up the entire world, sacrificing everything to complete oneself and approach happiness through devilish arts. That is the extinguishing divine, tribulating heavens. Whisper, whisper, whisper. Somehow, it feels like I can hear Yang Soo-jin's voice in my ears. Sacrifice them as offerings. Become the priest of oneself. Construct the non-humans who abandoned me as sacrificial offerings to block the disaster of fate, and twist fate to seize a new future in my hands. First, the golden divine heavenly thunder sect. Next, even more people. Next, grind even more people. Finally, grind up even this world to complete yourself. No, it isn't the voice of Yang Soo-jin. It's the demon within my heart. From now on, we will seal the criminal Co Un-hyun. Chiak, 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 chiak. The elders and grand elders of the golden divine heavenly thunder sect form seals with their hands, positioning themselves around me and spreading out a formation. The extinguishing divine, tribulating heavens technique whispers to me continuously. The heart demon within my heart tempts me to use the extinguishing divine, tribulating heavens technique, to use it to transfer the calamity to them and change fate. However, I remain still, just quietly, indifferently listening to the voice of the heart demon. Looking up at the sky, I shed a tear. If they were all non-humans, I wouldn't have needed to try so damn hard up until now. The extinguishing divine, tribulating heavens technique, my heart demon, whispers to me to offer sacrifices now and change fate. But the future I originally wanted to change to was one where I wanted to save the sacrifices. I muster all my strength to try and stand up. The heavenly being stage grand elders flinch at my movement, but do not stop the sealing technique. I am feeling so wronged and so deeply aggrieved. I stretch my hand towards the heavens with tears flowing. An earthling from a civilized society. I am a human from a world without fate. Then, are the beings from a world with fate slaves to it, and therefore non-human? And their fate cannot be changed no matter what. Heavens, I reach out my hand towards the sky and close my eyes. The sealing technique wraps around me, and darkness covers the surroundings. Is fate, really? Swoosh. John Myung-hoon looks at the small jade orb in front of him. The sealing is complete. The heavenly being stage grand elders speak, wiping the sweat from their foreheads. The small orb where Co Un-hyun is sealed. John Myung-hoon clenches his teeth looking at it. He thought capturing Co Un-hyun would be relieving. But strangely, he feels uneasy, wondering if there might be some misfortune or great calamity he can't avoid. He looks up at the sky, but the celestial energy is normal. Suddenly, John Myung-hoon looks at the heavenly lightning banner. Why did Co Un-hyun tell me not to call the name of the heavenly lightning banner? For some reason. Really, suddenly out of the blue, John Myung-hoon feels the urge to call out the name of the heavenly lightning banner. ZH. And then, Zing. The five elements blood curse banner still embedded in John Myung-hoon's head buzzes, interrupting his words. Damn it. I need to find a way to remove this thing. He decides to postpone calling the name of the heavenly lightning banner and picks up the small orb in which Seo Eun-hyun is sealed. Is there no sign of Jinwei around? There's a void spirit pond underground, and there are traces of someone below it, but no one is there now. It seems they have escaped. I see. John Myung-hoon tidies up the surroundings. Jinwei. So, Yun-jin managed to escape quickly and was uncatchable, but the traitor Seo Eun-hyun was captured. Take this puppet to Penglai Palace. Penglai Palace, having sent many people, wanted to take General Seo as a trophy. The Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect had no choice but to agree. You too as well, Hong Fan. Surrender. Yes. Hong Fan does not resist fiercely and is captured quite willingly, as if submitting to his fate. Hong Fan is also sealed by the nascent soul stage elders and trapped in a smaller orb than Seo Eun-hyun. Now, John Myung-hoon looks up at the sky and says, "It's all over." He looks at the sky, somewhat relieved and somewhat regretful. It's really all over. Now it's time to go home. John Myung-hoon and his group return to the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect. Hearing the news of John Myung-hoon's return, all the disciples of the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect come out to look at him. In front of the main gate of the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect, John Myung-hoon silently takes out the Heavenly Lightning banner. Tremendous cheers erupt everywhere, so loud that the ground vibrates. John Myung-hoon, receiving everyone's cheers, proudly approaches Jin Byuk-ho and returns the Heavenly Lightning banner. Jin Byuk-ho pats John Myung-hoon on the shoulder, looking proud. There was a time when I thought teaching you was a waste of time. I was wrong. It was my greed. You are the true successor and disciple of the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect. Jin Byuk-ho looks at John Myung-hoon for a moment, then grabs his hand and shouts, "Listen, everyone. The disciple who was originally to be the next sect leader betrayed our trust and was expelled for stealing the Heavenly Lightning banner. Because of that, the position of the next sect leader is vacant." At Jin Byuk-ho's words, John Myung-hoon looks at him with a surprised expression. "I ask you all, who should remain as the next sect leader?" Senior brother John Myung-hoon. Senior brother John Myung-hoon. John Myung-hoon. John Myung-hoon. John Myung-hoon. John Myung-hoon's name is called out from everywhere, and Jin Byuk-ho laughs loudly and proclaims, "From today, John Myung-hoon is granted the Jin surname and is appointed as the next sect leader of the sect." Wah! Jin Myung-hoon. Jin Myung-hoon. Jin Myung-hoon. Thus, Jin Myung-hoon feels the relief of finally coming home amidst the cheers of his fellow disciples. For the first time in a long while, he smiles broadly. Jin Myung-hoon smiles. Jin So-hae smiles. Jin Byuk-ho smiles. Everyone in the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect smiles. And Jin Lee smiles too. Ahaha ahaha. Ahaha. Chapter 260, Heavenly Tribulation, 12. Translator, Translating Novice. Editor, Z0 Rel. After Seo Eun-hyun was sealed, the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect, which had been in turmoil due to the absence of the Heavenly Lightning banner, quickly found stability over the next few years. John Myung-hoon stabilized his realm after reaching the Heavenly Being stage and found a way to eliminate the 5 Elements Blood Curse banner. Jin Byuk-ho once again built the Thunder Tribute Hall and sealed the Heavenly Lightning banner there. Moreover, the current sect leader, Jin Rin, began preparing to pass on the sect leader position to his son, Jin Jinshan, and Jin Y personally took on the responsibility of managing the seal of the criminal Seo Eun-hyun. The Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect is at peace. And in the now peaceful Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect, the love between Jin So-hae and John Myung-hoon, symbolizing the peace and prosperity of the sect, finally reached its climax. Do you want to hold a wedding ceremony again? Jin So-hae, her face flushed red, asks John Myung-hoon with a puzzled look. John Myung-hoon takes her hand and says, "Yes, when we first became Tao companions, it was very modest. Now that I have also received the Jin surname and have been confirmed as the next sect leader, I somewhat regret not having a proper Tao companion ceremony back then. This time, I want to marry you not as the partner arranged by the sect, but by my own will, So-hae." Hearing this, Jin So-hae's face turns even redder. "It may take a few years to stabilize my realm fully since I ascended to the Heavenly Being stage too hastily fighting Seo Eun-hyun, but I'd like to have a proper wedding ceremony with you once everything is stable. Promise me." With her face flushed, she locks eyes with John Myung-hoon and says, "Nobody expected Seo Eun-hyun to suddenly betray the sect, right? So, John Myung-hoon." "No, Jin Myung-hoon. Promise me, you will never betray the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect." John Myung-hoon listens to her words and nods seriously. "I will never betray my family. Okay, I will promise. Here." He extends his hand to Jin So-hae. John Myung-hoon whispers to her, "This is the pledging sign used in my hometown to make promises. It's a sign formed by two people together. The two intertwine their pinkies and touch their thumbs together at one of the peaks of the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect. I promise, Sohei. I will never betray the sect. After finishing his words, John Myung-hoon slowly brings his face closer to Jin Sohei's. Moments later, the two separate. Jin Sohei, seeming to be in a much better mood, hold hands with John Myung-hoon and looks down at the panoramic view of the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect, asking, "So, why did you just come back from the True Devil Realm? Huh? After sealing Seo Eun-hyun in the True Devil Realm, you could have divided the territory he had occupied into the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect's jurisdiction, right? Well, Penglai Palace made quite a fuss about it." Penglai Palace? Yes, they said that since they had offered the highest bounty and dispatched the most people to subdue Seo Eun-hyun, they should have the majority of the rights to the territories acquired from capturing him. They even took the four-axis puppet. So greedy, really. Well, that too. He recalls Penglai Palace's first law enforcer, Han Riang, who said, Penglai Palace's first law enforcer Han Riang got severely beaten by the formation Jin Wei had set up. So, they made a huge fuss, insisting they needed to take over that territory to study the formations deployed in that area. Formation? Yes. It's a formation that utilizes the Dragon Vein, said to have been deployed by Seo Eun-hyun and his group. The purpose of laying out the formation is unknown, but Penglai Palace said they would share their findings after analyzing the formation later. So, the formation hasn't been dismantled yet. At Jin Sohei's question, John Myung-hoon nods. Yes, apparently, it's not a dangerous formation like the Realm Annihilation Heavenly Void Formation or the Bright Flame Formation, so there's no need to dismantle it. That should be fine then. Jin Sohei nods and looks at John Myung-hoon. By the way, how's the restraint on your mind? We are currently looking for an experienced restraint lifter from all directions. Since it's a restraint that's deeply ingrained in the mind, it seems it needs to be handled very carefully. Well, now that Seo Eun-hyun is sealed, there's no one to activate the restraint, so it's okay to take your time. She smiles lightly, and John Myung-hoon nods. Yeah, we can take our time. There's no rush anymore. John Myung-hoon looks up at the sky with a leisurely heart. Lately, the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect has been dominated by an atmosphere of leisure, peace, and optimism. Everyone's tension had eased. The relationship with Penglai Palace had significantly improved after the joint operation to subdue Seo Eun-hyun, and they had recovered the Heavenly Lightning Banner and sealed the traitor of the sect. The control over Thunder Spirit Island is becoming more solid, and the scale of the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect is gradually increasing. Thus, the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect prospers in peace and leisure. And so 8 years pass. Wawung. Inside a cave residence, a figure clad in a golden robe sitting in a meditative posture stands up. Around him, the consciousness domain that had been fluctuating compresses and then, at one moment, completely settles down. John Myung-hoon, clad in a golden robe, half opens his eyes and stands up. Finally, I have completely stabilized my cultivation in the heavenly being realm. With his mind now fully tempered, he is no longer swept away by the nature of heaven and earth. John Myung-hoon's madness is to the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect itself. Protecting and guarding the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect, like his family, is the heart he had chosen. Step. John Myung-hoon, stepping out of his cave residence, looks down at the still thriving Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect and smiles. Now let's go see Sohei. Having fully risen to the heavenly being stage, it's time to report his cultivation to the elders of the sect and receive the position of Grand Elder. John Myung-hoon is likely to be given the Heavenly Lightning Command Belt, made with the power of the Heavenly Lightning Banner. Using the power of the heavenly being stage, he floats in the air and looks down as he heads towards the Golden Thunder Hall. Below, Chi refining disciples are lined up holding flag magic artifacts, practicing the lightning path method. Nearby, Chi building disciples hold orange flags, and core formation disciples are also carrying flag dharma treasures. Disciples met along the way greet John Myung-hoon. A peaceful and leisurely atmosphere is swirling around the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect. Some disciples with a bit of free time are preparing ink and paper everywhere to draw flags. Finally arriving at Jin Sohei's cave residence, John Myung-hoon calls out to her. Sohei, Myung-hoon. Jin Sohei, surprised, pops out from within the cave residence. She looks at John Myung-hoon with joy, smiling brightly, and runs into his embrace. Come in. Have you finally stabilized in the heavenly being realm? Yes. Now, I'm about to formally receive the position of Grand Elder. Congratulations, you're now going to be a Grand Elder of the Golden Lightning. Haha, I'm going to see the Supreme Sect Master first to receive the Golden Lightning Belt. The belt. Right. Jin Sohei shakes her head and says, while you were in seclusion, There was a discussion about the belt regulations, and it seems they will change within a month. You came out at a somewhat awkward time. What's changing? From now on, instead of belts, those at the elder level and above will be given flag Dharma treasures. Even the elders who received belts last time will be replaced with flag Dharma treasures. Flags. John Myung-hoon thinks of the scenes he had passed by upon hearing her words. Now that I think about it, on my way here, I saw a lot of flags all over the place. Is there a connection? Well, it seems that after you recovered the Heavenly Lightning Banner, your popularity rose, and the desire for flag magic artifacts and flag Dharma treasures increased significantly within the sect as they reminisced about you returning with the Heavenly Lightning Banner. Ah, no wonder. I thought the sect had developed a flag fetish over the past 8 years. He enters the cave residence with Jin So-hye while having such frivolous thoughts. And as John Myung-hoon enters Jin So-hye's cave residence, he looks around. For some reason, the interior of Jin So-hye's cave residence is also filled with countless flags. John Myung-hoon stares blankly at those flags for a while. At the Golden Thunder Hall, Jin Byako's laughter can be heard. Have you finally properly reached the Heavenly Being stage? Haha, congratulations. But first, Jin Byako, looking at John Myung-hoon who had completely stabilized his Heavenly Being stage cultivation, laughs heartily. Then, as if remembering something, pulls out a golden belt from his storage bag. Starting from a month later, just for your information, a new flag called the Golden Banner will be awarded to those at the elder level and above. Yes, I heard from So-hye. Recently, the desire for flags has increased within the sect, hasn't it? He looks around. The Golden Thunder Hall, too, is filled with an excessive number of flags everywhere. Yes, that's right. Well, originally, among the sect's methods, aren't there many that form thunder banners? That's true. However, for me, John Myung-hoon frowns and rubs his head. Seeing him, Jin Byako laughs heartily. It seems you're bothered by the restraint Seo Eun-hyun placed on you. Don't worry. Recently, the esteemed Sea Dragon King, known throughout the Head Realm for his benevolence and righteous justice, heard about the restraint placed on you and decided to visit to dissolve it. He will visit in about half a year, so just hang in there a little longer. Is that so? Yes, and a month later, when you receive the Thunder Banner, we will formally appoint you as a Grand Elder. I have something to say about that. What is it? After being recognized as a Grand Elder, I want to hold a wedding ceremony with So-hye once again. Oh, John Myung-hoon explains the reason to Jin Byako, who laughs heartily and permits the remarriage of John Myung-hoon and Jin So-hye, who will be responsible for the future of the sect. Thus, a month passes again. The ceremony for John Myung-hoon's appointment as a Grand Elder and the award ceremony for the new Thunder Banner to the Elders and Grand Elders was scheduled to be held on a grand scale. John Myung-hoon is at the top of Thundercloud Peak. He stands in front of the Thunder Tribute Hall, watching Jin Byako come out of the hall with the Heavenly Lightning Banner. This award ceremony will begin with me, and then all the Grand Elders of the sect will swing the Heavenly Lightning Banner once as an offering to the heavens. You will also swing the Heavenly Lightning Banner at the last turn before receiving your Thunder Banner. Be prepared for that. Understood. All the Elders and Grand Elders had gathered on Thundercloud Peak, along with those receiving the Thunder Banner. Their Dao companions freely chose the best spots to sit at the open area of Thundercloud Peak. John Myung-hoon and Jin So-hye also approach a flat rock that appears nice to sit on. Let's sit here. Jin So-hye, fiddling with a flag Dharma treasure she had recently made, chooses the spot. John Myung-hoon nods and sits down. The two hold hands, looking forward to the wedding ceremony that will follow the award ceremony. Soon after all the Grand Elders had taken their seats, Jin Byako's speech begins. During Jin Byako's speech, Jin So-hye suddenly looks at John Myung-hoon. Myung-hoon. She gazes at John Myung-hoon for a long while before breaking into a broad smile. Today, of all days, you look especially handsome. What's with that all of a sudden? John Myung-hoon chuckles. Jin So-hye, with a look full of affection, tightly grasps John Myung-hoon's hand and says, I love you. I feel the same way. John Myung-hoon smiles warmly as he holds Jin So-hye's hand in return. And then, finally, Jin Byako's speech concludes. Now, we will proceed with the awarding of the Thunder Banners to all the Grand Elders and Elders. We shall start with the Grand Elders. Vice Sect Leader Jin Y flies beside Jin Byako and takes out a storage scroll. As he unfolds the scroll, countless golden thunder banners pour out from inside, floating up above the heads of each Grand Elder. Now, after all Grand Elders have wielded the Heavenly Lightning Banner once, they will be awarded their Thunder Banners. With that, let's begin the Thunder Banner awarding ceremony. Boom! Jin Byako swings the Heavenly Lightning Banner, invoking the Heavenly Lightning. Kurong. Simultaneously, the golden thunder banners floating above the Grand Elders' heads vibrate, drawing the lightning. Quajajijik. The thunder banner above the head of a Grand Elder sitting directly below Jin Byako catches the lightning and spreads it around. Pajajijik. The lightning from the first thunder banner connects to the closest one. The lightning from the second thunder banner links to the next. Thus, according to the seating arrangement of the Grand Elders, the lightning moves, connecting thunder banner to thunder banner. From above, Jin Byako, suddenly with a curious face, looks at this scene and ponders. That looks almost like some kind of character. Do you see it, Vice Sect Leader? Yes, I see it. It's fascinating. Despite the Grand Elders choosing their seats freely, it's as if they are forming characters. Haha, truly a curious occurrence. Perhaps the heavens are giving some kind of revelation to the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder Sect. Let's see what character it is. Jin Byako laughed heartily as he read the accidentally formed characters below. Zheng, govern. Li, encourage. Sect Leader Jin Rin looks proudly at the thunder banner. His son, Jin Jinshan, is also looking forward to his upcoming appointment as sect leader. Zhan Myung-hoon and Jin Sohei lean on each other's shoulders, holding hands. The Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder Sect, harboring dreams of hope and prosperity, thus looks up at the sky. The sky splits open. Blink. In the darkness, I continuously wield the colorless glass sword in the deep, profound darkness. Supposedly, to reach beyond treading heavens, I had given myself this reason. But in reality, it's a means to suppress the heart demon incessantly sprouting within me. How many times, over and over, have I swung my sword? At some point, while swinging my sword enough to forget the flow of time. Piet. Suddenly, the darkness is lifted. The seal is being released. Piet. Immediately upon my release, what I see is Hong Surayong, covered in blood from head to toe. And from above, I feel the gaze of an unfathomable presence. I see. I ask Hong Surayong, has the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder Sect been annihilated? She smirks at my question. No, the annihilation is underway. If you go outside, you must not look at the sky. I ask her, have you come to take me and escape? No. Follow me. I follow her out. The place I had been sealed is inside a place called the Sealing Spirit Hall, next to Vice Sect Leader Jean Y's cave residence. As soon as we step outside, the gaze of the tremendous being, Pukwak, Wawung, I utilize the extinguishing divine tribulating heavens technique and see Hong Surayong harming herself to maintain her sanity in front of me. KRGH, hee, I guess I'll go mad after all. Do you understand, Xiao Unhyun? Our Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder Sect will soon perish. Before the annihilation, I came out from Punishment Lightning Cave to see you. I realize she wants something. We are about to die. So, Boong, 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 Boong. 16 flying sword Dharma treasures float around her. Simultaneously, as she spreads her hand, 9 round orbs float above it. That is, I want to have one final duel with you. Will you accept? Feeling an indescribable emotion, I draw out the colorless glass sword without saying a word. Words are unnecessary. Both of us, holding our swords, prepare the starting form of our martial arts, decorating our final duel with the brink of annihilation. Chapter 261, Tribulating Heavens, 1. Translator, Translating Novice. Editor, Z0 Rel. Her golden flying sword and my colorless glass sword are pointed at each other. My head overheats. We are anticipating each other's moves, engaging in a battle of minds through dozens of exchanges. And the result of these exchanges is, without exception, my victory every time. Despite her reaching the extreme speed of the ultimate pinnacle, I no longer hold back in our exchanges. Pushing her to the limit, even resorting to treading heavens, the anticipated outcome of our confrontation in the realm of intent is always her defeat, no matter how many times we fight. Swoosh. But she steps forward without any regard. Boom. Hong Surayong slashes diagonally from the bottom left to the upper right with her flying sword. In an instant, the lightning that bursts from the flying sword sweeps over my upper body as if cutting through it. Fwing. The air is torn apart. The next moment, I use Severing Mountain Swordsmanship's first, second, and third moves simultaneously, performing an uppercut, a lower cut, and a rising slash to rip apart her lightning blade. Then, without giving her a chance to react, I advance further. Not relying on the flying escape technique or the physical abilities of demon beast methods. With only the acceleration of pure consciousness, my body moves forward, creating shockwaves as the air is pushed away. Surpassing sound, I rush towards Hong Surayong in an instant, attempting a gentle thrust towards her chest. However, in a split-second exchange of looks, Hong Surayong counters my acceleration with the flying escape technique, the lightning path method, and 9 gang spheres, deflecting my thrust. She steps back, throws her flying sword at me, and then changes her hands into lightning, forming a seal with her lightning-transformed hands. Crack. Subsequently, 16 flying swords sequentially fly towards me. Now, the battle expanded to not just martial arts, but the realm of flying sword techniques. What she desires to contest is not martial prowess, but the artistry of the sword. To her, as a swordsman, it doesn't matter whether she fights with martial arts or flying sword techniques, as long as she can cross swords before she dies. Wawoom. I accelerate my consciousness even further and face the 16 flying swords attacking me from all directions with my colorless glass sword. The 16 flying swords circle around me, forming a sword formation and pressing me with 64 transformations. Previously, Hong Surang's sword formation would have been merely a technique combined with the harmony of the lightning path method, a cultivation technique. But at this moment, after receiving enlightenment about the sword from me and learning to handle the sword from the perspective of martial arts, what she uses is no longer just a simple technique. Whiz, 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 whiz. Hong Surang's sword formation, as if alive, begins to press me aggressively. It feels as if 16 Hong Surangs are wielding swords and attacking me from all sides. For the first time in a long while, I truly feel like I am engaging in a martial arts duel, exchanging thousands of moves in an instant. Wawoom. Trapped in the sword formation, I thrust my colorless glass sword towards a weak point in the formation to break through. Boom. It seems as if part of the formation collapses, but the 16 flying swords do not stop encircling me and continue to follow. After piercing through one of the peaks, I straighten my posture and swiftly slash at the incoming sword energies. In an instant, even sound is cut off. All the nearby high peaks are sliced off, and Hong Surang's sword formation momentarily scatters. But as soon as her sword formation scatters, what appears is Hong Surang, accelerating from outside the formation and rushing towards me. Clack! Catching one of the flying swords from the dispersed formation, Hong Surang begins to perform a sword dance. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Using the flying escape technique, the lightning path method, and the acceleration of ultimate pinnacle simultaneously, she is barely able to keep up with my movements bolstered by pure martial acceleration, exchanging moves with me. However, her flying swords begin to stabilize the formation again in the meantime. We foresee millions of futures, blocking each other's possible moves. After experiencing that process in our minds and transferring it to reality, we engage in a battle of tactics. I prepare to attack, pushing her overwhelmingly. I aim to suppress Hong Surang before the sword formation can be activated again. But the next moment, 8 of her flying swords unexpectedly spread out in a formation from angles I hadn't anticipated. I'm surprised for a moment, but quickly shake my sword vigorously at Hong Surang, throwing her off and breaking through the 8 flying sword formation. However, upon regaining my senses, the remaining 8 flying swords gathered where the other 8 had flown, forming a perfect angle for a complete sword formation. Pot. The 16 flying swords unfold a formation again and enclose me. For the first time in our battle of tactics, I am pushed back. I move my body, and at the same time, reading her intent, blocking her moves, and continuing with mine. Gradually, we begin to have an inner dialogue. You have grown incomparably since before. I swing my sword, disturbing the sword formation, and look for its weak point. But for you, your sword's tip is trembling. Hong Surang comes out of the sword formation and forms a hand seal. Chi condenses in her hands, creating a lightning blade. Merely with the difference in pure skill, I cannot reach you. That we can exchange blows like this is probably because you're harboring too much hesitation at the tip of your sword. Without hesitation, she dives into the sword formation, attacking me like a storm with her sword. That's what makes it a duel. If I start using my sword properly, the duel will no longer be possible. Boom. We collide. We face each other with our swords, our eyes meeting. Hong Surang speaks out loud. It doesn't matter. I know you're holding back your strength. Show me your true sword. You want to see my true sword? I smirk cynically. It's meaningless. Doing so won't accomplish anything. Isn't spending the last moments of your life in the greatest dash. Co Eunhyun. She shouts as if she is truly angry. Draw your true sword. It's not that I want to spend my last moments in the greatest duel. Don't you still understand? I know you have a vision beyond intent, beyond everything else. And yet, do you not know? All of that. I, with a gloomy expression, relax my grip on the sword and let it hang loosely. What's the point? Yang Sujin's non-human theory. The result of failing to save the golden divine heavenly thunder sect despite dedicating this life to it. The bitter conclusion that fate cannot be resisted. I say with a hollow look. After all, we're all going to die anyway. If I were to use the extinguishing divine tribulating heavens technique, it might be possible to prevent this. But if I use the extinguishing divine tribulating heavens, the golden divine heavenly thunder sect will disappear. I scream as if in agony. No matter what I do, what I try to protect is doomed to destruction. What meaning is there in doing anything more here? Co Eunhyun. Hong Surayong points her flying sword at me. Enduring the massive gaze from the sky, her body battered and bloodied from countless self-inflicted wounds. Even in her blood-soaked robe, Hong Surayong meets my gaze with bright eyes. I came to cross swords with you. Not with the heavens, but with you. Do you understand what that means? I clench my teeth. I see her intent. I see her resolve and will. I understand what Hong Surayong wants. You want me, with my own hands, to end you in a duel. I want to die by your sword, not by the heavens. That's why I've come to duel with you now. You're cruel. My jaw trembles. I clench my teeth so hard my gums hurt. Otherwise, I feel like I would cry. So what? Both you and I are already mad, and one day we'll turn to dust. At this moment, while we're still alive, if everything is already destined to destruction, why can't we do what we want? If we cannot overcome fate, can't we at least make choices within fate's confines? I look up at her. What is this? Contrary to the sullen mood just moments ago, I felt her words reach my heart. What did you just say? If death and destruction are already fated, why can't I seek my own path within that fate? In that moment, touched by her words spoken in the face of true impending death, my pupils shake. Kururum. Somewhere, thunder rumbles. The heavens roar. The owner of heavenly punishment seems ready to exert power. But more than that, I focus more on Hong Surayong in front of me. Our lives are fleeting. The essence of lightning is also fleeting. If our lives bloom and wither in an instant, isn't even this short moment before imminent destruction part of my life? As a cultivator who has studied the lightning path method for hundreds of years, as a sword cultivator, Wawoom, wawoom, wawoom. 16 flying swords begin to rotate around her. Whiz, 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 whiz. The rotation speed increases, and heaven and earth's spiritual energy gradually begins to be drawn towards her. Even if it's just the form of death, I want to entrust it to you, not the heavens. Flash. Golden lightning, integrated with sword energy and containing thousands of variations, shoots towards me. A clear strike of the grand perfection heavenly being level. And I, moved by her heart, unwittingly swing my sword. Swoosh. The colorless glass sword is swung, and in that instant, Hong Surayong's upper body is diagonally sliced before she can even react. Splat. Yes, that's it. Hong Surayong quickly regenerates her upper body and moves her flying sword. Watching her, for the first time, I feel my hollow heart begin to lighten. I understand. I decided to face her not as the young genius Seo Eunhyun, not yet 100 years old, but as my original self, over 2,500 years old. I will grant your wish, Hong Surayong. Shush. I become the sword, the feet that tread the ground, the legs that support the body, the waist that maneuvers the limbs, the arms that swing the sword, the head that makes all the decisions, the lungs that breathe, the spiritual meridians that circulate energy, the blood vessels that carry blood, the nerves that transmit signals. The colorless glass sword is connected to my fingertips, and even the slightest bit of energy emanating from me. Even my intent becomes entirely one with the sword within me. For the first time in our duel, I unsheath the formless sword. SSSSSR. Simultaneously, I draw out all 2,999 colorless glass swords stored within my golden core. The colorless glass swords fill the air, boasting a faint transparency that seems visible yet invisible. From now on, I will kill you. In this state of being the sword itself, I properly meet Hong Surayong's eyes. Burn your life away. That was the plan. Flash. An immense energy explosively bursts forth from Hong Surayong's body. The Hong Surayong of the grand perfection heavenly being stage ignites her entire cultivation in an instant. Burning bright in the moment before annihilation, fleeting like lightning, she burns her entire lifespan in this very moment. Kagugugu. Along with a tingling sensation, I realize her energy has surged to the level of the 4-axis stage. We look at each other. Once again, words are not needed. Time seems to stop. For the first time facing Hong Surayong, I earnestly unfold my martial arts. Since every strike from her, who is burning her life, is fatal even if grazed, I have to avoid them by pushing the record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts to its limit and wielding the 3,000 glass swords with all my might. Following the myriad transformations of the formless sword, the colorless glass swords swap positions with each other, leveraging the advantages of the formless sword. She, who burns her life, becomes lightning itself. To the her who moves at the speed of lightning, using all forms of acceleration like the flying escape technique and ultimate pinnacle, I counter with the extreme acceleration of consciousness through the formless sword. Perhaps because time has stopped, not even sound can be heard. In this muted world, I flatten a peak with my sword dance, and several nearby peaks are sliced into pieces following the sword dance of the formless sword. After dodging my sword, Hong Su-ryong maneuvers her flying swords around herself. She becomes the sword formation itself. Becoming the axis of the formation, she wields the sword while operating the formation. Flash. The sword moves, pouring out light. I can't block this. What should I do then? I too begin to form hand seals. The foundational techniques I learned from Chongmun Ryong, pushed to the extreme, starts to mix with the colorless glass swords. Chongmun Ryong's foundational techniques. Kim Young-hoon's martial arts. Because of them, I could aim for the peak in each field. And the days I spent with Hong Su-ryong. Through those days, I had come to fully integrate both fields. Just as a sword formation revolves around Hong Su-ryong, the 3,000 colorless glass swords around me begin rotating in uniform order. Yet, influenced by the formless sword, they begin to spin freely and unpredictably. A complete unity of martial arts and cultivation techniques. Feng. Severing mountain swordsmanship. The 28th move. Feeling this new sense of unity, I blossom a new chapter of the severing mountain swordsmanship. 3,000 colorless glass swords, and the formless sword carried within them, form a circle around me. The circle is the core principle of the heavenly being stage. Perhaps it is also the principle of the heavens. Using a faint understanding of the heavenly being stage, my knowledge of martial arts, and what I learned from Hong Su-ryong about sword formations, I unfold my own sword formation. The name of the sword formation is Vajra. The new technique of the severing mountain swordsmanship and the name of the transformation within the Vajra is 12,000 peaks. Triic. 3,000 colorless glass swords rotate, each producing 3 sword shadows. The colorless glass swords, including the sword body and sword shadows, each divide into 4. Each sword and shadow symbolize the 4 seasons. The seasons rotate, forming a circle. For changes added to 3,000 colorless glass swords create 12,000 instances of attack. My 12,000 peaks collide with Hong Su-ryong's sword formation. Each burst of sword energy from my colorless glass swords split mountains, create valleys, and carve out hills. Each streak of lightning from Hong Su-ryong's flying swords melt mountains into glass and burn forests to ash. In the frozen time, we unfold the extremes we had attained from each other, enveloped in a halo of light. Wereruru. I look at Hong Su-ryong, lying on the burning mountainside. She is smiling. Aside from being blood-soaked, there are no noticeable external injuries. It was good. But Hong Su-ryong, who had burned her entire lifespan, is dying. Her nearly 900-year-old hair has turned white, and her once supple skin is shriveling. Seo Eunhyun. Hong Su-ryong looks at me and says, "Was my sword worth watching?" Even as her life drains away and she loses her light. Hong Su-ryong asks me while looking at me. I kneel on one knee, and holding her hand, I reply, "It was the best." Ha ha. She laughs, closing her eyes, not wanting to look at the sky. To be able to die by your hands, not by the heavens. Even as her vitality fully drains away. Even as she looks momentarily old and somewhat unsightly. It was wonderful. TL note. Can be taken as double meaning as saying she loved MC in Korean. Yes. To my eyes, her appearance now is as beautiful as Hyangwa's or Yan's. Was it because of a woman's intuition? Or was it respect for a swordsman superior to oneself? In the end, she spoke to me formally and thus fell asleep. I too will forever love you. It's already much too late, but I kiss her fallen lips. I had thought not to grow attached. But affection isn't something that moves according to plan. Unbeknownst to us both, it accumulated little by little, and before we knew it, it had become as immense as Mount Tai. Isn't that what human affection is? I asked the people of the world, what is affection that it dictates life and death, from the Wild Goose Mound verses by Yuan Haowen. Affection, in the end, is time. It is the time that is piled up layer by layer, growing and rising until it cannot be ignored. I had such affection for Hong Su-ryong, for the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder Sect, for Yuhua, for Gyubek, for Gurion, for Azure Tiger Saint, for Oh Hyunsuk, for the Azure Heaven Creation Sect, for Kim Yun, for Buk Hyangwa. To all those who had accumulated time with me thus far, I had given affection and received it. And to Hong Su-ryong, who had given me her affection and passed, I lay her body in its place. The surroundings are ablaze with the aftermath of our battle. In the sky, the god of heavenly punishment is descending. Staring directly at God, the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder Sect is going mad. In this mad world, I take a step forward. Sararak. White orchids begin to bloom. The pure white orchids cover Hong Su-ryong, and the white flowers spreading in all directions quench the inferno, illuminating various places on the ground. If we cannot overcome fate, can't we at least make choices within fate's confines? Hong Su-ryong's words echo in my mind. Chewing over those words, I begin to utilize the extinguishing divine, tribulating heavens. Yang Su-jin, you called the entire world non-human. They say enlightenment comes to those who hear the stone striking the wood and seek it out. To me, a Tao companion burned her life and collided her will against mine. Thanks to her, I was finally able to realize Yang Sujin's non-human theory fundamentally contains a contradiction. If every being in the myriad of creation is a slave to fate, and the heart tribe too only arises due to the enders, then sure. If even changing fate requires the ender to have the fate to change their fate, then everything in the world is a slave and non-human. But, step, I head towards Thundercloud Peak. Far away, beyond Thundercloud Peak, John Myung-hoon is visible, leaving the countless elders and grand elders below him behind. He is flying up to the sky, doing something to the heavenly lightning banner. Originally, heavenly tribulation should have struck down immediately, frying everyone. But John Myung-hoon, who has grown to the heavenly being stage, is doing something. If fate is absolute, what are the weak who cannot fulfill their fate? If fate is perfect and omnipotent, the fate assigned to every being is an inevitability that must occur. However, some who are weak do not live out their fate and die before it is fulfilled. Even I, before seriously beginning cultivation, died on the same day each cycle because my lifespan was predetermined. However, there were many times I died without fulfilling that lifespan. This is not unique to me. From what I had learned about fate from the Mad Lord, and from the countless others I had observed, there were innumerable beings who failed to fulfill their fate. Of course, these individuals were too weak to even bear their destined fate. But it was precisely because they were weak that they could make a choice. Though they couldn't overcome fate, like Hong Surayong, who chose to meet death by me before fate caught up to her, achieving what she most desired before dying. It was possible to choose what they desired within fate. Fate might be insurmountable. We might forever be slaves to fate. But even so, to make choices within it, to desire, is the undeniable freedom of being. Not non-human. If we go by Yang Sujin's logic, then, wouldn't the ender be the most dreadful non-human of all? Are we not constantly being torn apart according to the fate we possess? That's why even Yang Sujin, who wanted to deny fate, still sought to change it into something happier. Everything is predetermined by fate without any freedom, so some say the slaves of fate are non-human. However, even if there are things determined by fate, and it's impossible to change them, to desire something beyond fate, to choose it and dream of it, is the freedom granted to beings. The very existence of the weak who cannot fulfill their fate proves it. Therefore, there are no non-humans in this world. Hong Surayong ultimately did not reach entering heavens beyond the path. However, judging from the spirit I saw in her, perhaps if she had gathered a bit more enlightenment and had not come to meet me, things might have been different. But out of her own will, she chose to meet with me and duel rather than polishing her realm. She chose to move from where she was within, rather than advancing forward. So, I too will make a choice. I look up at the sky. Behind me, the entire area where Hong Surayong and I battled is enveloped by the White Orchid Blessing incantation. Extinguishing Divine. Looking up at the sky, I stretch out my hands. I will save my family. Tribulating heavens. Beyond the area filled with the White Orchid Blessing incantation, the surroundings begin to spread with the Dark Een Soul Ghost incantation. The Een Soul Ghost incantation forms a sea of curses, beginning to cover the entire territory of the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect. In an instant, the area I covered with the White Orchid Blessing incantation looks like a dot compared to the vast area now covered. It appears as if Lesser Yang is contained within Tyene. Kaulalak. The black curse spells cover various places of the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect, turning the standings flags black, as if they're black ghost curse banners. I seize control of the area with my curses. Wapa. From afar, John Myung-hoon is finally unable to hold on and falls from the heavenly lightning banner. At the same time, the owner of heavenly punishment, who had not fully descended, begins to manifest its existence in this world completely. Kagugugu. Now, this place is my altar, a sanctuary of curses. From now on, the ritual begins. Translator notes, very late, but I decided to just change beyond the path to heavens to entering heavens beyond the path. I was but a foolish mortal who dared to alter and interpret the divine knowledge of the tremendous heavens with my ignorant knowledge. Chapter 262, Tribulating Heavens, 2. Translator, Translating Novice. Editor, Z0rel. I'ma stop it. This is the first thing John Myung-hoon feels when he witnesses it. The red lightning heavenly tribulation method, the voice of lightning, from the bottom of his soul to the tip of his flesh. Every part which constitutes the existence known as John Myung-hoon is ringing alarm bells like mad. I will the ficant stop it I will the. While Aza, John Myung-hoon, quicker than anyone else, dashes towards Jean Byako to snatch the heavenly lightning banner from his hand, and half out of his senses, infuses it with power. Chi, soul, fate. Instincts from 3 planes of existence lead John Myung-hoon, forcibly engraving into his mind the method to wield the power of the red lightning, heavenly tribulation, the ultimate authority of the heavenly golden thunder body. Almost instinctively, he strengthens the seal on the heavenly lightning banner and, using the power of heavenly lightning, stimulates the plane to tear through the dimensional barrier. The voice of lightning whispers to him, "That being cannot fully come here." It merely revealed its gaze using the heavenly lightning banner as coordinates. Therefore, if you expel the heavenly lightning banner outside the dimension, that being won't be able to come here. That's what it is telling him. With his eyes rolled back and foaming at the mouth, John Myung-hoon grips the heavenly lightning banner and tears open a dimensional rift, attempting to push it inside. However, the heavenly lightning banner refuses to go in. A clear and resonant female voice reaches John Myung-hoon's ears. "Ah, Myung-hoona, Myung-hoona. My grateful Myung-hoona." Russell, a white-haired woman with slender, jade-like fingers suddenly appears in front of John Myung-hoon, caressing his cheek. "I must destroy the golden divine heavenly thunder sect. The master needs to see you. The great god of the heavenly punishment needs to grasp the thread of fate left by the golden deity and erase his traces. So, my dear Myung-hoon, stop this." Grghhhhhh. Seeing the white-haired woman whose face isn't clearly visible, John Myung-hoon feels something bursting in his mind. It's a memory. The memory of hearing this woman's name when he entered the Thunder Tribute Hall. Why haven't I paid attention to this memory all this time? John Myung-hoon himself can't understand. Certainly, that day, hadn't Seo Eun-hyun given him an ominous warning about the heavenly lightning banner? Even if it isn't true, John Myung-hoon had almost forgotten everything about that moment except for her name, up until now. But at this moment, John Myung-hoon can tell by looking at Jungli. "Myung-hoon, what are you doing? Why are you suddenly snatching the heavenly lightning banner? Do you intend to betray the sect like Seo Eun-hyun?" Seeing the elders of the sect, whose eyes are unusually crazed, suddenly screaming at John Myung-hoon, holding the heavenly lightning banner, he can tell. The red lightning heavenly tribulation method, the voice of lightning, is telling him. All this time, everyone from the golden divine heavenly thunder sect, including John Myung-hoon, had been enchanted by this monster. John Myung-hoon remembers. Up until now, the voice of lightning had been of 2 kinds. The somewhat sticky and bewitching voice that taught the red lightning heavenly tribulation method before Seo Eun-hyun's betrayal. And after Seo Eun-hyun fled with the heavenly lightning banner, a voice much weaker and smaller than the seductive one, but gentle and pure. Only today does he realize that the owner of the first voice is the entity before him. "John Myung-hoon, do you not hear the words of the Supreme Sect Master?" As if he can't see that being within the heavens. As if he can't see Jungli, who has clearly revealed herself. Jin Byuk-ho, with his eyes turned upside down, attacks John Myung-hoon. Hururum. Jin Byuk-ho's lightning bolt falls on John Myung-hoon. Although the lightning is absorbed immediately, John Myung-hoon feels his concentration on pushing the heavenly lightning banner into the dimensional rift waver. "You, get your hands off the heavenly lightning banner now. Do you wish to be like Seo Eun-hyun, you traitorous wretch? You." John Myung-hoon clenches his teeth. His family is scolding him, not of their own volition, but because of this monster before them. Only the red lightning heavenly tribulation method and the pure voice of lightning are protecting him from Zhongli's clutches. But, Myung-hoon, as Zhongli once again calls John Myung-hoon's name, he himself feels the strength leaving his arms. Being called by name by Zhongli, he desires to entrust everything to her, desires to devote himself, desires to return to her. Ah no. John Myung-hoon clenches his teeth as he looks at that being revealed in the sky. He looked down at Jin So-hae, who is looking up at him. "They are my family. Myung-hoon." As she calls John Myung-hoon's name once again, he is engulfed in a terrifying sensation, deep within his memories. Suddenly, his childhood comes to mind. He recalls his kindergarten days. At that time, Zhongli, who was his kindergarten teacher, whispered while caressing John Myung-hoon's entire body. "Myung-hoon, you must listen well to me. Ah no. There was no teacher like you." During his elementary school years, he recalls all his homeroom teachers from 1st to 6th grade. All of John Myung-hoon's homeroom teachers were long, white-haired women. No, don't talk nonsense. In middle school, John Myung-hoon recalls a girl with white hair who was his classmate. And his homeroom teacher during middle school was also a white-haired woman for all 3 years. Ah no. During high school, John Myung-hoon remembers the hairstyle that was popular among his classmates. At that time, all the girls came to school with long white hair. Thinking about it, it seemed like all the female teachers at his school were also white-haired and looked exactly the same. During university, John Myung-hoon was a loner. Because everyone at the university except John Myung-hoon was a white-haired woman. Myung-hoon. With delicate fingers, the white-haired woman strokes John Myung-hoon's cheek and whispers in his ear. John Myung-hoon's eyes begin to narrow. The faces of everyone he knows are turning into white-haired women. He thinks of his colleagues at SJD Company. The director and the chief, both white-haired women, liked hiking. Two white-haired women, who were John Myung-hoon's interim mates, were both not on good terms with him. The new recruit was also a white-haired woman. Ah no. John Myung-hoon continues to sift through his memories. Gradually, he recalls the figures from the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect. Stop. Don't enter my head. Myung-hoon, the woman he loves the most. The face of Sohei. And finally, John Myung-hoon cries tears and screams, giving up on pushing Zhongli into the dimensional rift. Walla! Screaming out loud, even embedding spiritual energy in his cry, he hurriedly runs to Jean Sohei and looks at her face. Fortunately, it's Jean Sohei as she should be, not white-haired. John Myung-hoon. What's wrong? Sohei. And then, zing. Suddenly, John Myung-hoon feels a change in the voice of lightning that had been advising him. It's no longer sinister and seductive like Zhongli's voice, but a weak yet clear and pure voice of lightning. This voice of lightning had always led John Myung-hoon down the right path. Although he always felt a sense of rejection towards Zhongli's voice, he had always believed this voice of lightning to be truly the sound of genuine lightning, a voice he relied on deep in his heart. But the next moment, John Myung-hoon doubts his ears. Return to thee. The weak but clear and pure voice of lightning suddenly begins repeating a strange sound as if it had lost its mind. Return. Suddenly, the lightning, which was nothing more than a phenomenon, seems to have gone mad. But that is not the end. Aya, Kaya, Aya, Wapa. As that being fully descends guided by the heavenly lightning banner, the elders and grand elders of the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect, who hadn't been aware of that being, even upon seeing it due to the hypnotism of the heavenly lightning banner, all scream out in unison. John Myung-hoon also screams out loud, indescribably. What is that? As that grand being sets its gaze, the heaven and earth spiritual energy begins to surge dramatically. Crackling. Simultaneously, the elders who absorb the heaven and earth spiritual energy start to explode one by one. Even if their physical bodies explode, their nascent souls still remain. However, none of their nascent souls could escape from their spots. The souls of the exploded nascent soul elders and heavenly being grand elders are humbly kneeling with their hands clasped in front and heads bowed. In that somewhat bizarre scene, John Myung-hoon failed to even realize that the entire Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect had been covered in a dark curse. Zing. Oh my lord. Far away, Zhongli ascends to the sky. Through the extinguishing divine tribulating heavens technique, I barely manage to look up at the sky and clench my teeth. It's merely one eye, but despite invoking Yang Sujin's will of extinguishing divine tribulating heavens, it feels like my mind is about to collapse right now. Perhaps anyone else who had learned the same extinguishing divine tribulating heavens would have lost their mind and started chanting to return a long time ago. It's just beginning. Barely holding onto my crumbling mind, I try to control my shaking body and attempt to begin the ritual. Move, body. Please move. It's when I am forcibly trying to move my body in a state of panic. Zing. I hear a tingling sound. At the same time, I feel a certain will being conveyed to me. This is. Were now you thay twit hi nithi has bada found vastikal dwillisensary soft the traces grey toff heaven live punishment golden return deity. Odd and even words compose two different sentences. Explanation in TL notes. Wapa. I feel blood streaming from my 7 orifices. I can hear. The will of the grand being can be heard. Return. With tears and blood streaming down, I try to clasp my hands together, sobbing uncontrollably. It's too clear. In my past life, Jean Byako heard the jade voice of that being, but hadn't I been unable to hear it? Why is that? Of course. Back then, Jean Byako was walking the grand path of the lightning Tao, and I was a wretched person who didn't even know the character for lightning in the lightning path method. That's right. Now that I have also learned the extinguishing divine tribulating heavens technique, a lightning path method, I can listen to that being's jade voice and return to extinguishing divine tribulating heavens. Zing. As soon as my thoughts reach extinguishing divine tribulating heavens, I feel my sanity returning and stop my hands that were involuntarily trying to take a prayer position. Cold sweat flows over me. That person, no. That being, isn't trying to control me nor harbors any malice. It merely conveyed a huge will to Zhongli, and I, who had learned the lightning path method, happened to overhear that will. I don't even understand what the will means. Yet, merely overhearing a will, with no malice, almost destroyed all my resolutions and determination, nearly turning me into a wreck. So this is the gap between me and a governing immortal. I managed to stand up with my trembling body and continue to look up at the sky. Plop! Both of my eyeballs burst. It doesn't matter. Quickly regenerating my eyeballs, I prevent them from bursting with the energy of extinguishing divine, tribulating heavens. I begin the ritual in the darkness. Wawum. As I activate extinguishing divine, tribulating heavens, the celestial energy begins to change. Kurung, kurung. At the same time, very familiar entities begin to poke their heads out. Dark clouds. The ones that always interfered with my cultivation. During the chi refining stage, how much did I despair because of those dark clouds? Kagugugu. It's not a typical celestial phenomenon. The dark clouds summoned by extinguishing divine, tribulating heavens have the exact same feeling as those dark clouds caused by heavenly rejection during my chi refining stage. They are clouds formed by fate. Specifically, they are clouds formed by disastrous calamity. As the gaze of the owner of heavenly punishment is momentarily obscured by the dark clouds, cutting off communication with her master, I feel Zhongli looking towards me as she looks up at the sky. Calamity gathers and gathers, becoming a power strong enough to twist the fate of the heavens. This is a ritual that is never auspicious. Therefore, to safely complete this ritual, a sacrificial offering is needed. I offer. The offering of the ritual is limited to those who possess the power of the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder. And being expelled from the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect means more than just being chased away from the sect. Being separated from the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect means becoming another Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect oneself. This is the basis on which I asked Han Wei to recognize me as another Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect, offering the power of those who possess another form of Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder as the sacrificial offering. That is the extinguishing divine, tribulating heavens technique. But that means oneself is also included in the range of offerings. I reverse part of the extinguishing divine, tribulating heavens technique's incantation. Supa. Just as the essence of curses and blessings merely depends on the presence or absence of the heart. Perhaps the difference between devilish arts and cultivation orthodox methods is also a matter of how the heart flows. Contrary to what Yang Sujin intended, the extinguishing divine, tribulating heavens technique begins to unfold in a completely different form. TSD. I fuse the power of the extinguishing divine, tribulating heavens technique within my nascent soul with the Een Soul Ghost incantation using the Sea of Righteousness and Mountain of Grace. Simultaneously, I reverse the activated Een Soul Ghost incantation and the White Orchid Blessing incantation. At the same time, the curses that covered the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect in the form of a massive Tayin are all reversed into blessings. And the blessings that held the center of Tayin in the form of Lesser Yang become the center of Taiyang in the form of Lesser Een. Een and Yang reverse. And at the same time, the extinguishing divine, tribulating heavens technique combined with them also reverses. Patsutst. Accompanied by white orchids blooming everywhere, I reach out my hands towards the sky. Originally a ritual that sacrifices everything to complete oneself. But, at this moment, Yang Sujin's legacy is completely shattered. A madman who sacrifices himself to protect everything has taken up his will. Kugugugugu. The calamity-laden dark clouds in the sky begin to pour down towards me. I offer myself as the sacrificial offering, O fate. Please, Quang Kurururum. From various places within the dark clouds, fierce azure lightning flashes and begins to fall all over the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect. Please divert the fate of destruction. Kurururum. Azure lightning strikes from all directions. The blue lightning, which always sought to kill and obstruct my cultivation, now, at this moment, strikes everyone in the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect without killing them, altering the celestial energy bestowed upon them. Kugugugugugu. I feel all the calamity-ridden dark clouds enter me, shedding a bitter cold sweat. My celestial energy is changing, not a mere great misfortune. I have never seen such an ominous calamity before. And as the dark clouds enter me, allowing the sky to be visible again, I am able to meet the gaze of the owner of heavenly punishment. I realize. The owner of heavenly punishment is enraged. At the same time, Zhongli, who has been looking at me for a while, reaches out her hand towards me. Xiao Unhyun. Xiao Unhyun. I watch Zhongli tensely. Xiao Unhyun. Zhongli calls my name 3 times in a row. Translator notes. Author did a thing where you read the even and odd words separately to form 2 phrases. Of course, it looks really bad in English, so here's what they mean. Were you within the body of vast cold, essence of the great heavenly punishment? Return now to this great immortal. Now that it has been found, I will erase the traces of the golden deity from the 3,000 worlds.